Welcome back, everybody. We put this off for like over a week, but I'm glad that we did because we have more stuff to talk about today because we did so. I have on here, we got several people who want to talk about Rehydrated, so we're going to introduce them right now. You guys, what's going on?
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
What's up?
It's Ringo.
I'm Freeze. You guys should know me.
I'm Cold.
My name's Satchel. I'm the Unreal Engine dev.
All right. So, just to be completely honest here, we came into this with no preparation. we just kind of have some clips and stuff that we want to talk about. I know Ringo here, we were going to have Jared on tonight, and he couldn't come on, but we also got Ringo in the process as well, so he's going to be talking about stuff as well. So, I don't know, Ringo, what do you know about this so far? Because I know you've been kind of out and about for a while, but I know you said you watched the reveal with us, right?
Yeah, so I haven't been like actively playing or watching speedruns like as much as I used to, but I definitely watched the trailer and stuff and the gameplay reveal, and I heard what the devs had to say. The most notable thing to me probably being the fact that they literally are like aware of our community, and now that's even more present since you're gonna play the game for them.
Right?
So,
Yeah, that's true.
that's really sick, and so yeah, I mean. So I'm pretty much caught up on as far as the remake goes.
The thing about the whole the stuff they were talking about with the speed running and how it was part of their inspiration to let THQ know there was interest for the game and they wanted to do this. It was kind of like more implied and read into, but now I feel like this is like I feel like this is kind of it now. Like this email kind of confirms a lot of the stuff we were thinking about.
Yeah, this was like the declaration of all of our things that we were speculating.
Yeah,
but that they were just kind of speculation.
Of course, the reason why we got Satch on here today is because we had some comments about the gameplay. Freeze, did you DM the can you DM me the?
Yeah, let me send you all this.
The
stuff.
main VOD, yeah, like the one that's on IGN.
Oh, the main VOD, yeah. Let me.
Let's get that.
I have the clips, but let me get the actual VOD. Do you want the Twitch one?
The one with us on it, or do they have it highlighted?
You know what? I'll pull up the YouTube one. That might be better.
Yeah. Like that's the one that everybody's familiar with anyway.
Yeah.
Like I said, we had to rush to get here today. I was super busy all day. My cat had surgery, and there was like a lot of running around. All right, so let's get this up.
Yeah, so this one's the developer Q&A with the so this is the second time that we got to see gameplay.
All right. So we said the first thing that we noticed right off the bat was the camera, right? So when you were talking to me in DM stats, you were saying that like this is like a default program thing, because I couldn't really sense whether they were talking about like they said they were going to make the camera easier to use for accessibility, but you also mentioned that that's like a part of a default like set camera in Unreal Engine 4.
Yeah, so what I was saying mainly concerned movement. So I guess kind of cameras in Unreal and movement kind of go hand in hand, because Unreal has this class called the character, which is, as you probably tell by the name, is how different classes are set up such that they all have different variables for movement speed. They can all be controlled by either an AI or a player. So part of that character class comes with this idea of a camera boom. So what a camera boom does is kind of like a line that searches around the environment, and anytime SpongeBob's back is up against the wall, it would push the camera forward, so the camera wouldn't be clipping inside like a rock, for example. So that part is default. All this extra stuff, like as we're seeing right here, every time SpongeBob jumps, the camera tilts down. That is not default. That is something they explicitly programmed in.
Okay, that's what I was kind of worried about, is that they purposefully added that. I'm not sure why they feel this is like a accessibility thing, though, because they did mention that, as I said before, they're trying to make the game easier to play. But when you see, like, before he's even on, I feel like there's, if you even look at what just happened there, let me rewind this a little bit. If you take a look at
It almost makes it look more difficult to see where you're jumping, honestly.
Yeah, there's like a moment here specifically where he goes up to the bouncing flower, and it already starts to turn the camera as he gets on top of the flower, like before he touches it. In the original game, it seems like you bounce after you've already bounced, like the I guess like whatever.
Yeah, the camera almost catches up like to your bounce.
Yeah, but in this, it seems like there's like a little designated area where it, like if you're near the flower, it looks down for you, kind of a thing, because it seems to already look like before you even touch it, you know.
Yeah, because that's looking way further down than it was when he was jumping.
And then it
like,
slowly kind of drifts back, and see, this looks good right now. This current camera angle looks fine, but as soon as he starts jumping around, it just kind of shakes and like looks down. It's hard to see what's ahead of you.
I wonder if they did it to make it just appear more smooth. I'm not really sure.
I don't really I don't know why they would change that though. It's just a very strange design choice, I guess.
I think it's good when you're crossing gaps, but not when you're just jumping around on flat land.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of ties into the whole problem with losing visibility when you're doing the jumps. Like when you're crossing a gap, I think being able to just see the other ledge is fine enough. But if you're just jumping around and you're jumping on all solid platform, no holes or anything, it's harder to see.
I don't know if you noticed when he ran off that ledge earlier, but the camera did the same thing when he was falling. So I don't think it's just jumping. I think it's just like if he's airborne, the camera just looks down. You'll see like when he jumps, it just kind of shakes around. It's kind of jarring.
Yeah.
And I think another problem is that the angle is too extreme. I feel like if it wasn't that extreme of an angle when he's jumping or in the air, it wouldn't be as bad. But because it's almost like 20 whole degrees that it's pointing downward, it just makes it harder to see.
I think one of the biggest issues with it is how fast it moves. Because there's no delay.
You mean like
in
how
It's
slowly it
instant.
moves?
Well, it goes straight up instantly, pretty much whenever you're jumping.
That's how the original game is. It snaps straight up, but the problem with this one, I think, is that it takes too long to flow down back to where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the visuals look really good. I don't think there's too much to talk about there, honestly.
Kind of remake the visuals, even for an alpha, this looks fantastic. I imagine that they're still going to make some changes to the designs of certain things, and we've already talked many times before about the kind of the saturation that they put on the look, and it makes it just seem like it's constantly sunset. I'd imagine that they'll either have that worked out later on in development, or
I actually have
or
something
maybe
to
it'll be like
show.
one of those or maybe have some sort of visual display setting.
There's an image floating around the internet. I'll pull it up. This is the image that's floating around right now. I don't know if you've seen this, but I think this looks way better.
Oh yeah.
Like you can
Yeah,
tell
the
you
one
can
on the
tell
right
the
just
difference.
looks
It's hard
so
to see it until you
natural.
actually look at the difference, but like side by side, but yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. The right side just looks so much more natural, and it looks less altered from the original.
Yeah, this
It
is
has the colors more like the color palette is more closely matching the original game on the right. On the left, it's just like everything is so vibrant, you know.
Yeah. Now
like
Snatch,
this pink,
this brings me into a question about the Unreal Engine, because the Skybox I know has a lot of settings regarding lighting. Do you think that a change making it look warmer or cooler is just a simple setting in the engine, or or is it more complicated than that?
So every skybox is a little different. If they made their own sky, I would imagine that it would be a little bit more difficult. Though the settings such as like fog, and it kind of looks like in that left picture that the blue might be something called height fog, where you can adjust a certain color based off of a different height in the world. So having that blue color change would probably be pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like a texture thing. It just seems like the game's lighting engine. Because remember,
Yeah.
the original game
I
did
think
not
it's
have a
all
lighting engine. It was all textures. Even the light beams and in like the stadium levels, they're all just like textures.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Because there really wasn't any. Was there shadowing in the game? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I don't think there's shadows in the original game.
No, there are. There are shadows, yeah. There are shadows for your character and the NPCs, but I don't think for like objects.
But that's all textures too, right?
Probably.
Like there's no baking in the original game, like how modern games will do lighting.
This spatula animation kind of worries me here. They're making it cinematic instead of it almost seems like it cuts to a cutscene, like a set cutscene almost.
Mm. One thing I did just notice about the lighting is that SpongeBob has a different angle of shadow when compared to other objects. So he must be on a different lighting channel than all the other objects in the world.
Do you want me to rewind this so you could... Yeah, I'll take a look.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because it's more like directly above him, while like the Tikis, it's kind of on the side.
These are all
It's,
observations that are like kind of hard to tell unless you've worked with the engine, I suppose.
Yeah, Unreal has, I think, up to 3 lighting channels by default, and you could set different objects to be affected by different lighting sources. So that means there's probably a light source right above the world that points directly down that only affects SpongeBob.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if that's like that just seems like kind of like a neutral thing. I don't know if that would make the game. It looks. I didn't notice when I looked at it. Do you think it's particularly distracting if you're looking for it, kind of a thing?
I think it's good for platforming for sure.
Yeah, because if your angle of the shadow for your player character is not like directly below you, I feel like it would make it harder to gauge where you are when you're in the sky. So if like you're jumping a gap, and you're basing where you are based off the shadow, and the shadow's on an angle, it's gonna mess you up. And especially considering that they've reiterated many times that they don't want to make the game harder for kids or newcomers to the game. You know, you don't want to put in things that will throw them off, like an angled shadow.
Yeah, I think looking back at the Wind Waker remake, what they did for when you're flying on the Deku Leaf in the remake is that they added that little icon so you can tell where Link's shadow was. So I guess this is another solution to a problem in that.
This area specifically looks very orange.
I think it's all lighting. I really do.
Yeah.
I do think certain textures on the rocks do just look sandy and orange in this area.
But I'd imagine that's the look they were going for, though. I feel like that makes sense.
Could it be? I mean, I feel like I think that, again, the name included as well. A lot of the inspiration that came for like the lighting might have been from that fan remake that was also called Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Like I almost feel like they're kind of like looking at that as a reference for like what gets positive reception for Jellyfish Fields, maybe. Because even though like a lot of people said that the fan remake looked too like sunburned, they could just be looking at that. I'm just trying to think of like why they would change the lighting so much. That's the only thing I can come up with, because they're aware of the fan remake and they're aware of this community as well.
I would just assume that it's leaning towards a more futuristic style, towards how video games are now. Because most games now, they're a little more, I don't want to say saturated, but they're typically not as pastel as games used to be, because there's a lot more colors to work with. So they could just be basing it on like what appeals to more people now.
It could have just been an artistic decision. You know, whoever
That's the thing,
whoever is the director of the artboard for the remake, they probably just wanted it to look like this. That's highly possible too.
That's like kind of hard to accept for a remake though, because it's supposed to be the like a faithful remake, as they mentioned earlier. I think a big part of this game that makes it so fun to play and look at is the art style. So going too far away from that might cause some issues, like we see here. I want to see this with the filter on it that the guy did with the images on the left.
Yeah, and you already said you tried doing in like in Streamlabs, you tried adding like the saturation and hue filters to see if you can like shift it yourself.
Yeah.
So that didn't work, right?
I can do that right now, actually. I could try it. barrier reef.
I think you would have to do a hue shift more than the saturation,
Yeah, you're right.
because you just want everything to look cooler.
All right, so right now we're at 0. Let's dial it back a little bit. Let's just make this bigger for a second. All right. I don't know. What do you think of this? This is back to the way it was. Let's go back to the main area.
Yeah, I want to see it like a bunch of different colors.
This is modified.
Obviously, SpongeBob's gonna look a little bit more green because you're doing this, but
Yeah, exactly.
but the grass though, the grass definitely looks greener.
Yeah, let's just ignore SpongeBob and try to focus on the.
Yeah, the rest of it. I think
might be
honestly, I
saturation,
think
too.
I think it already looks a little bit better. I'm more focused on the grass. I think the grass is probably the most popping part of the scene. And if you don't make it look like grass, it's gonna look weird.
Let's try just the saturation. We'll see how that goes. It's kind of hard. Like the one that
Yeah.
we were looking at before. They were like those images are heavily edited, so
Yeah,
it's
and
kind of hard to compare.
The good news is that if this game allows for modding, you could make a custom post-process setting that would allow you to have a lot more control over the colors. And
Yeah,
that is
the
true.
bloom, too.
I do wonder how they will approach the modding community as far as this game is concerned. I wonder if they will make it accessible for certain mods or even like the way that like the Steam Workshop operates. I wonder if they would be open to having some sort of something like that. But I don't know to what extent. Obviously, they probably wouldn't allow for like entire map building and all that. But I feel like that they might leave something open for modders to come in and change the game. You know, at least in some ways, like you were saying with the colors and post processing, or probably even movement mechanics if it's that open. I think that would be cool. I don't think anybody would be opposed to modding except really the developers themselves. They would have to be open to it first.
Do you have any other comments about the physics that you've seen so far, Satch?
I think there's one clip coming up where I definitely posted in Discord, but it might be coming up in this
Send it to me
video
on
soon.
Twitter so I can put it up.
All right. And it's something to do with hammer skip.
Okay. The damage, right?
No, the standing on characters.
Do you want me to send you that link? I got that.
Yeah.
Standing on character.
Oh, are you talking about when he stands on the fodder and
There
he
you
just
go.
gets kicked off?
Yeah.
I sent that to you in DM Shift on Twitter.
Okay.
So as I was mentioning before, using the default concept of a character in Unreal, it comes with a few kind of caveats. So you can see right there that he just kind of slid right off that robot. If you stand on top of characters in Unreal, you don't get your jump back. It still treats you as you're falling, and it kind of just slides you off the capsule.
So that
Oh,
you
that's
assume
good.
that's like that's just a default thing they can change later.
It is very easy to disable, though if you do, it can make the game very glitchy for casual play. So like, say for example, in the original, pretty much any surface counts as ground you can walk on and would get your jump back. But if you do that in Unreal, say for example, the robot's model is a walkable surface. If he has an animation where he's flinging his head back and forth and SpongeBob standing on his head, SpongeBob will inherit that momentum and will just get flown around the map. So that's probably not what they want to do, so they're probably going to keep that on.
Yeah, it feels like for something like that, they would have to hard code in the ability to stand on like some sort of collision box above them that you can stand on while they're doing an animation. I don't think they would go through the effort of doing that.
Probably
Well, I mean,
not.
they can. I mean, they're
Well, are there any examples in the game where we're jumping on an enemy, like outside of speedrunning? Is there any examples in the original game where jumping on an enemy actually can help you out? Is that a thing?
I don't think so.
I mean, I think it operates the same way essentially as like in-air stalling with the bubble wand, where it's not intended, but you have it.
Oh, it
There
is
was one
intended though.
clip.
It's hard coded into the game.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think the whole thing with the bubble wand stalling, I think that was completely intended.
Yeah, that it was like there's the modding community confirmed that there's a line of code that specifically tells the game to do that. So, as for the like standing on the head, you think it would actually cause a lot of problems, like giving it a collision box for enemies, or
In games that I make, it definitely causes a lot of problems. Though just adding a box that doesn't move at all and disabling the capsule collision for SpongeBob, it could work. It would just be really messy and probably not something they would want to do.
Do you think that SpongeBob has capsule collision in this?
I
Or do you
think
think
so,
they
yeah.
changed it to make it a box?
If he's using default character movement, which I'm pretty sure he is, he's going to have a capsule because all characters come with a capsule.
Right. See, but when you think of I wouldn't say anywhere further than or anything less than like an independent developer, because they're clearly not. They're funded by THQ Nordic, and they clearly have a larger dev team. I'd imagine that they would put in the effort to developing their own things, and I'd imagine that for some things they would use the defaults and they would use the templates that Unreal's provided to them. But do you think that it's likely that they still made things on their own because they have the resources to? Do you think that's a possibility?
A lot of studios do make their own custom movement. A few things that clued me in to either this being something very similar to default movement or um, exactly default movement is a few clips where this one I couldn't find. It was when SpongeBob was turning and it kind of looked like he was walking in a different direction from where he was facing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a symptom of not having this variable called rotation rate turned up high enough. So what happens is when you're changing directions in Unreal using default movement, the character mesh will take a little bit to rotate in the direction that you're moving. So if the variable isn't set too high, you can actually see the rotation and he'll move in the opposite direction from where he's facing for a little bit.
you mentioned default character movement, and I think a good thing to bring up there is that the original Battle for Bikini Bottom actually has custom animations as opposed to the default ones they would use in renderware back in the day. The Heavy Iron devs actually programmed their own animations, so what that does is allows for like the one frame jumps and stuff like cruise boosting to exist, because again, like the animation overlaps are just a symptom of what they tried to make there. So it probably wouldn't even have happened if they used the default stuff. I think the question is at this point, like whether they'd be willing to make it like its own custom movement for the remake, which I feel like would be necessary to, like as you're saying before, this would also affect like collision, like standing on the robots' heads, right? Or is that a totally different thing?
No, that is part of characters like default.
Okay, so like you think that the cure to this symptom would probably just be reworking the entire movement system from the ground up, right?
I mean, that is one way to go about it. You can just disable that behavior with a checkbox, keep in mind. But I think for the purposes of casual play, it would cause a lot of problems to make the characters not based on a capsule and also give you the ability to stand on their heads. But I do think that going back to what you said about animation for renderware, I think that's more of a symptom of this concept of animation programming called state machines, where you go through different states that tell the game what SpongeBob is doing at any given moment. So I think, and this is just me speculating, the modding community probably knows way more about this than I do. But in the original, when you get hit and you have that one frame opportunity to jump, that could be a symptom of just SpongeBob getting hit, and the hit sun state is 2 steps away from the falling state. So if you're falling in the air and you get hit, it has to go back to the idle phase first before it can go into the hit stun state. So for that one frame it's stuck in transition, you're able to jump.
Right, that makes sense. I was just assuming that it's part of like the their attempt to program animations on their own, like as you said, like a custom engine, I guess, for it.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the stuff in the original is kind of like animation based movement.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
That's exactly what it is. All the glitches in the game are just based on that.
Matter what SpongeBob, like wherever SpongeBob's collision is, it's the animation that has precedence over what he's able to do.
Exactly.
So Unreal has variables for if the character is falling, if he already did a double jump, things like that. So kind of like reworking that and then going back to an animation dependent like frame of mind, I think that would be a little bit more trouble than it's worth, because just knowing where the capsule is at any given moment is just way more accurate than just looking at whatever animation he's doing and then just going by that.
Yeah, that seems like it'd probably be like the main complication for trying to mimic the game's movement, like one for one.
Mm-hmm.
Because the game is just so dependent on animation. I mean, like that's pretty much the whole, all the stuff we use in the speedrun as well, is like all those glitches work just because you had that like you said, the one frame opportunity between those moves. But it's not really all that's, you know, we can live without the one frame overlaps and stuff. That's not really what we're thinking more about. It's more of like how you can reproduce the feel of it. I guess like on a technical level, if it doesn't technically work the same, like you're not going to have stuff like one frame jumps and things like that. We're not really asking for that. We just want the game to feel like the original.
There's a very fluid feeling when you're like controlling all three of the characters, especially when you turn. Like there's a really satisfying like rotation that they do instead of like an instant turn. You know what I mean? Like in some games, like a Mario 64, where you can turn on a dime.
It's like you have to turn. Like you have to turn before you turn around.
But this actually like allows for really interesting like turns you can do, especially midair, because you have this like you're almost on like a it's kind of hard to describe, but when you are actually controlling the character and it takes so long to move around, you're almost it's like almost operating a car in a way. Like you have to consider, especially when you're using cruise boosting, because you are like you had just to I don't know. It's really hard to describe, but if they can replicate the feeling of like especially the turning, I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, that's one of the things they're worried about, because you can see like in the beginning of this, the camera movements, when he moves, it kind of snaps around with him. You're not really able to control where you're facing without turning the camera. And you'll see that like here. The camera just feels like it's very like forced on you.
Yeah, the camera feels like it's interfering with the actual like gameplay.
Yeah, that's true, because if it turns, you're also turning the way the analog stick is, like whichever way you're facing, the camera is turning in that direction too, so it changes the precision of the angle you can turn at. It's true. Right.
And I feel like especially in like the more movement intensive levels, like 90% of the work is the camera. Like you're using the right stick. Oh, I feel like your right stick is doing way more precise, inputs than the left
absolutely.
is.
Like especially with cruise boosting, you're using both sticks to pilot the cruise boost movement.
Yeah, and I mean, I would love to see an improved version of the battle camera, because I think it's really great, except for how obnoxiously sensitive it is. That's really the only thing that I don't like.
You think that's a problem? I actually like that personally. Maybe like obviously like games have sensitivity options now. That could be a thing as well. They add like a.
That is true.
Yeah.
I think it's personal.
Like
I think
Call
it's
of
great
Duty.
too,
I mean, Freeze. You're an expert on that.
Well, that's all. That's with all first-person games, though. When you're in third person, it's a different story.
That's a good point.
One thing I'm really interested in knowing, and I don't know if anyone's really got an answer, But I know that in the original game, when you look up and down with the camera, it stays that way until you let go. But in this game, I can't tell if that's also the case, or when you move it up and down, does it stay at that angle until you move it back?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a good point. I
Sash,
didn't even
what
think-
what is the default for that? Is that if there is a default for it?
So the default camera controls in Unreal pretty much are you move the analog stick and the camera moves.
Yeah, and it stays in place wherever you move it, right?
Yeah, I believe so. There are a bunch of different options you can do with default movement. I don't want to make it seem like all of this stuff would be completely impossible and like nothing can change, because there's like 3 pages worth of variables you can mess with default movement.
Oh
So-
yeah, absolutely.
And if you think about all the combinations of those variables too, like the results can get pretty crazy.
Yeah, really what the thing is we're trying to reproduce is it snaps back to the origin, and it really only turns after a certain point of like walking, like pretty much you can walk straight and it like back in a straight line, the camera still won't move unless you turn it. I
Yeah,
guess
and that
like
goes back to the whole thing where the camera is always catching up to SpongeBob more than mimicking his movements exactly. And I think that might be the root of the problem with the camera then.
it just doesn't feel so snappy, yeah.
Yeah, well, it can be snappy, but it
you
just,
don't.
I
it
feel like
doesn't feel like you have full control.
I
Sorry to
think
talk
it
over you.
needs to hold up a bit. I think the whole concept of the camera in the original game always catching up to SpongeBob's movement makes it that good. And that applies to when he does jumping and when he's bouncing off of the flowers and whatnot. This camera is almost like it's precise and it mimics his movements. So when he's jumping and he's going on the flowers, it's already snapped on him. There's no catching up, and it doesn't make it. It just doesn't look right.
Yeah,
I don't
you're
think
right.
that makes it more precise. I think that makes it less precise. But I agree with what you're saying. But like, feels like you have less control over the tiny, minute details, which, I mean, that's what matters the most.
Right.
What's really
I
fun
thought we
about this
should
game is the
clarify-
level of precision that you can use to manipulate where he's standing, where he's facing, and so forth. Like things like Sponge Glide and SBA.
Exactly.
You can only set those things up because you can manipulate all the tiny little pixels that you're looking at just to have the exact same image every single time. And
Yeah, and I should clarify, when I say precision, I didn't necessarily mean the player-controlled precision. I think more precision of where SpongeBob is. You don't really have much control over it.
another weird thing about the original is that the camera actually does control like some weird things, like how far up he goes, and like, you'll see like in Sand Mountain in the speed run when I bash up onto the ledge with the spatula on top of it in the lodge. If you turn your camera, he goes up higher. Like his feet like barely clip over the ledge. That's another thing too, is like I wish we had more knowledge about. It'd be cool. We should have gotten one of the modders in here. Like if we got Seal in here, that would have been great. Maybe next time we can do that. But I'm curious to know like how like what were you saying before? The 2 different types of collision, and the one that I'm thinking of the collision where it just reacts to the physical like models. Like there's like almost like a coat around the models that you just react that the environment reacts to. I don't know if I'm explaining this the right way because I'm not a developer. I wouldn't know.
Oh, like how SpongeBob can stand on other models? Is that what you mean?
It's more like how when he jumps and he lands on something, he only lands when his physical feet models touch the ground.
Yeah. So so like kind of a debate against like the character collision on other character collision, like standing on another robot's head versus like SpongeBob on the ground. Is that what you're saying?
Or I think he's talking more like how we would describe it as mesh collision, as opposed to like using
Yeah.
a capsule or a simple 3D object
Oh, okay, I see.
for his collision.
So
Yeah.
having SpongeBob be his own hitbox in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Mesh
Well,
collision.
not a hitbox, more like a collision box, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mesh collisions are the most precise, but they take up so much computing power.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with them. In Unreal, in the character blueprint, the root is what decides what the character is doing, and the root for characters just happens to be a capsule.
I'm curious to see how they made the original game so efficient, but still had that kind of free-form physics where Like if he crouches, like for example, if you made like a Limbo Bar, and when he lands, he squishes into himself. You'd actually be able to go under the bar for that brief moment he lands when he squishes down.
Yeah, like your physical character model shrinks in that time. It's really cutting edge for that time.
Yeah, that's straight up the definition of mesh collision. It's pretty much what we wish for. It's just because of how complex modern game engines are. It just makes it so difficult to implement now.
That's fascinating, honestly, because you would think that
it's going backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of is, but when you save on certain resources like that, you can make the world so much bigger, and you can develop on it and make it that much more vast, and put more objects in the map. Like you can use that spare computing power for other things, like higher quality textures, higher quality models. You could probably work on some better collision than a simple shape, but when you use something as simple as like a capsule, it makes it so much easier for the engine to compute it. And it does give us a disadvantage for things like you guys are describing, where you want SpongeBob's model to be, his exact collision. But in the grand scheme of things, it probably saves a lot on other aspects in the game.
I think, in all honesty, looking at it, if they were able to do it, 15 years ago now, there technically shouldn't be an excuse they couldn't do it now. It's just a matter of how they can program it in their own engine.
Yeah, it kind of ties into the idea of using a widely known engine as opposed to kind of home brewing your own. I mean, when you think about all of the developers back in the early 2000s, every company had to have their own engine. There wasn't any universal engine that really like was used by a bunch of companies.
Renderware was kind of like that, but not to nearly to
this
extent.
Like THQ though.
It was more of the PS2 era, all those games, a lot of those types of games ran on renderware. So I kind of disagree with that. I think that things like Unity and Unreal have gotten bigger than the ones that were in the early 2000s, but they were definitely
to the scale at which game development was because back then there weren't nearly as many game developers as there are now. It's become so accessible that relative to its time, I feel like renderware kind of was the Unity or Unreal Engine of its time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a fair statement.
One thing I should mention is that Unreal does generate collision for a mesh. So say, for example, you're playing a game and all of a sudden the character ragdolls. What it's actually doing, if you think of it as a default Unreal behavior, is that it is detaching the mesh from that character's capsule. So it needs to generate collision for that mesh, and how that look is just a bunch of tiny capsules around each of the bones. So it would be very possible for them to take that default collision that SpongeBob's model generates and then use that.
Oh, so you're suggesting put capsules around maybe his legs and his arms to make them separate? Because that's how they do it in Melee. Actually, they have capsules around. I mean, obviously it's a 2D game, but that's part of why the game feels so good. For an example, specifically Pikachu's tail hitbox has several different points where it has different hitboxes on it. So because there are several capsules on his tail, you have a lot of freedom with how you can hit the opponent. So you'll see professional player Axe use that to his advantage and use the different hitbox trajectories to smack people in different directions.
Yeah, I think that would be a good approach to it.
Yeah.
Because when you're using mesh collision, you're literally tracking almost every individual polygon.
I feel like it's not even mesh collision for the original game. What you're describing sounds more like what they probably would have. It's hard to say without looking at it in an editor, but maybe that'd be a topic for a different podcast. We can look more into the original game and see exactly how they did it, because I know they have the tools.
I would like to see too.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels that way though. It definitely feels like his hitbox, or his collision box rather, for his main body, kind of stretches and moves around based on which way he's facing, what his I guess not which way he's facing, but more of his body orientation. When he gets flung back, his hitbox flings back as well, kind of a thing. That's a good example is like when you're sliding on a ledge for oil skip or anything like sleepy skip or whatever, when you have to use the ledge to slide off and bash. The one animation where his body flings back and goes against the ground gives you the best results because his body is physically like getting more space on the ground because his bat's flat to the ground.
Yeah, they're all dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the one that's just straight up not viable for that skip because it doesn't give you enough.
Yeah, you kind of like stand on your toes almost. And it's also too long.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Did you have any comments or thoughts about the bubble wand hitbox? Because
it looks too
I'm
small.
noticing it's yeah, exactly. It looks way too small.
It looks like the radius of it is just tiny.
It doesn't look nearly as bad when you watch because again, you got to consider this gameplay kind of has an asterisk on it because the people who are playing it are the developers of the game. So we were watching people play this like casuals who had never touched the game before they did this Q&A, and they were having a lot of trouble hitting the king jellyfish. Kolb, you were in that call with me, so you remember as well.
Yeah, like I remember when we saw it live with Jared, the first thing we noticed is people who've never played the original game at all or worked on their own brand new game is they didn't know the distance of it because it seems very deceiving. It seems like it's really small, and since it's so small, you have to be really close to the jellyfish to attack it, and it just seems pretty counterintuitive.
It almost feels like if you're moving forward, it feels like your actual collision is like closer to you.
Another thing too is it's very difficult to see where the collision ends because there are so much special effects on the actual wand. You can't really tell where it's going sometimes.
Something I also noticed is the beginning hitbox in the original SD version of the game. It kind of starts like 45 degrees to his right, like not even like farther than that, but it starts on his like right side. And I've noticed in this gameplay that it starts like kind of in front of him, like way more in front of him than it does in the original game, which is weird because it's like, I guess it's just, different. It's not necessarily bad, but it's just something I noticed.
I think the benefit of having it come out to the site to start is it lets you immediately gauge how like far apart it is from your body.
It just feels like it makes the most sense.
Good point. That's actually super, yeah.
Because if it's off to the side, you can see the distance from your body. If it's in the front, you have to play a guessing game until it's behind you almost.
That's a good point. Yeah,
you have a little bit of time to react to how far it is. Yeah.
When he holds it out and he's like got it to his side, you can see exactly how long the wand is. So it's really obvious on. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't actually.
I really like that. Actually, that's definitely like a small detail that should be brought up with them. That's super smart.
Another thing I noticed when I was going through the footage frame by frame is that it looks like the hitbox doesn't even activate for a few frames after the rainbow already appears.
I feel like the hitbox of the spin itself may be detached from the body, and I think it may lag behind the actual character.
Yeah, and that's why I noted that it looks like it's closer to the front of you if you're walking forward.
And I think when you're airborne, it may like sink underneath the middle of your body.
One of the things that I liked about the original, I know this is like a huge nitpick, but the motion lines that come out of your character when you like do like a fast action thing like jumping on a trampoline or sliding or using an attack, you can see the color of the motion line corresponds to which character you're using. So for SpongeBob, his motion lines are yellow, Patrick's are pink, and Sandy's are white. That's just a good detail that I personally like a lot. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily an issue that they're making the motion lines rainbow and have like stars flying out, but it seems kind of distracting and over the top to me. That's just more of a personal nitpick, though.
I think
that. Oh, go ahead, Cole.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I think that they're really trying to like emphasize the visual overhaul.
Yeah.
A lot of games that get remade tend to overdo it with like with the special effects. Like the Conquer remake, he's got like that like HD-esque fur, and it just doesn't look right.
And the bloom in that game is outrageous. Yeah, I've played both. Yeah.
Or Crash Bandicoot. Same thing? There's this actually that game's visuals look pretty great. It's probably one of the better remakes in my opinion, but it still kind of goes like over the top compared to the original game with some of the special effects in my opinion.
And when it's in the context of Battle for Bikini Bottom, which is a game that doesn't go over the top with its graphics, it's more of like they kind of make do with what they have. A lot of the work in the game is done by its textures, and its models are very simple. So seeing it
and
like
the color palettes and all the levels
right,
are awesome.
you're so right about the color palettes. Yeah, that's so true. Like for a game that
Like,
didn't even have a lighting engine, you know.
Every single level has like a distinguishable theme in the color palette. Like you can think Dutchman, and it's the dark colors and then the bright green and yellows, and it's like that contrast.
The dark
and then in Rock
browns
Bottom,
for the it's like the grays
and
and
then
the dark brown ships everywhere.
Rock Bottom, you have all these different shades of blue, and then you have like really, really like concentrated bursts of like pink, like the sign on the museum that like pops out to the
That's
black
like a
background.
direct contrast from blue, so it
Yeah.
stands out really nicely. Yeah.
And like the skybox for Rock Bottom, it's all yellows, reds, and like bright whites.
Rock
then you have
Bottom is one of the
Goo
best
Goo.
looking levels in the game, but one of the worst designed for gameplay.
I agree. I actually completely agree. I think the SpongeBob and the times, all those things.
I was replaying the Trench of Advanced Darkness casually yesterday, and also this is again like I'm glad that we waited to do this because like now I had the perspective of playing the game casually again to compare it. Trench of Advanced Darkness is one of the most confusing fucking levels in the entire game. It is so unclear what you're supposed to do and what order you're supposed to do things in. I don't know if I dislike it or like it, but it feels so freeform that you probably can't beat that level without accidentally skipping something.
Oh yeah, when I was a
know,
kid playing that game, it was just impossible on Rock Bottom. I couldn't get through the Trench of Advanced Darkness.
I feel like there's just so many
I
different
straight up
ways of
stopped
doing
playing
it.
the game because I couldn't beat it.
It just feels like there's too many
I think
ways
the
to do
devs
it.
I think the devs were aware of that because the last spatula in that is literally how in Tarnation do you get over there. So I feel like that was like pretty much intentional for it to be confusing. Take that. I mean, that's not an excuse or.
I feel like it's confusing, but in a way where I don't mean that it's hard to beat it. I mean like it's confusing to tell what the devs intended for you to do in some areas there, because there are so many different ways of doing things. Like there's for example, there's a section with a sleepy time where it's guarding the next section, but you can kind of walk around it. You can't really tell if you're supposed to tiptoe to it and get it. But I think like what they were going for that is you have to hit the sleepy time off the ledge that kind of ramps up as a kind of like a bridge type thing. Then come back as Sandy and glide over to the section that you're like with the sleepy times resting on top of the platform with the thunder tikis, only to get to the lasso that goes to the iron thing that has the spatula on top of it. But you can get on top of that platform from the slide in the beginning. You can just do a double jump and get up there. I guess like because the sleepy times are up there, they expected you to get hit off by it, but not really. That might just be more of like a physics and like enemy programming thing. I guess they're supposed to be guarding it, but you can only, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Again, like these are things that should be fixed in the remake, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about as well is like the idea of keeping exploits and movement tech in the game if it doesn't intrude on casual play, because it's been mentioned before. Also, you can see the bubble spin. Did you see there's the bubble spin just there? I'll try to.
Here, can you replay it? I wasn't paying
He
attention.
tried doing it to
He
reach
tried.
the platform.
The
He couldn't.
CEO. If you guys don't know, the CEO has the controller in his hand right now, and he's trying to do this, but he can tell that you
If the
can't.
movement
He's
was
trying to
preserved
stall to get to
and-
the
and
button for the
stall
barrels.
worked, then
Yeah.
you would have reached that.
Oh, that's actually terrible.
I
What the
almost
hell?
guarantee this got fixed as soon as they got back to the lab. This is probably the first thing that they made a point to fix because
Yeah, they got
That is like one of the
I
most.
couldn't make that jump. Fuck this. Let's put this back.
It's literally one of the most.
but you can
essential
tell like when he
tools in the
stops,
entire-
he kind of just stops and he realizes like you can't.
I remember later in the Q&A, it was brought up in chat, and
I
he
think
just
this is
kinda
actually
talked about
after
how
that.
it was there.
I'm pretty sure this is after that. Like because it was mentioned in chat, and then the guy on the left thought they were talking about cruise boosting, right? So he kind of dismissed it. But the guy on the right, the CEO, he said that. Oh, let me move this over. The guy on the right, the CEO, said. I guess he kind of like he responded to the cruise boosting comment, but he still went ahead and tried the bubble spinning thing because I guess like because it was brought up, he tried it for himself, and I guess this is just it not working for him. So this is after, yeah. Also, having slam on trampolines is like.
It would be a really big mistake to leave that out because that's like one.
So he tried it again there. Do you see that?
Oh yeah.
He tried it again there, but this is after this is after it was brought up, so you can see he's testing it, and he probably realizes that it's not right. There's something about it that's not right.
I just noticed something. That trampoline that he jumped off of, in the original game, were you supposed to slam on that?
No,
all trampolines. None of the trampolines.
But he just walked on it.
Yeah, I think that's something they intentionally coded, which I honestly don't agree with.
Yeah, I don't. It's not intuitive at all. It's actually less intuitive than the original game.
Yeah,
because like the entire level, you jump on the flowers and you get immediately sent. It makes no sense why suddenly you would have to start slamming on things for the same movement.
Yeah, and I'm certain that not all of the trampolines are like that because there are some trampolines in the game where you consecutively bounce off of them. So there's no way that that every trampoline you have to slam on to use.
I think another problem with that why the movement looks so jarring is that his body is not very animate. He just kind of like it's just kind of a box.
Very very stiff.
The body looks so stiff. Like
it still throws me off how small his fucking arms are.
Yeah, that's another thing too. It looks like a little imp running around with a box body.
yeah, his legs are really thin too.
Yeah, you can't even see him in the grass.
He needs to be thick, man. Don't be afraid to make him thick.
Thick. I think
to
one
be
thing
fair,
that they did.
He had some tiny legs.
One thing they did in the movie game, I don't know if I agree or disagree. The first animation when he jumps up, his head bobs down, and then the second one, it still bobs back like the original. But this has neither of them. His head doesn't animate up or down, like back or forth when he jumps.
Squishes.
Yeah, his whole body like kind of squishes inward.
Also, a little small thing that I feel like might just not be coded in yet, or maybe they didn't notice it because I don't know if they're playing this on a CRT or what they're using. If I go, or I mean, when I go to their studio, I'm gonna bring the Xbox version and show them on like an OSSC. They can see it clearly. But when he jumps, his arms are kind of like not. When in the original game, his arms kind of flap like he's trying to fly when he does his double jump. But
yeah, his hands in particular like flutter.
I can't really tell if it's doing it here. It's hard to tell.
It just straight up looks like he's just holding them there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's so subtle that you can't see it, but if it's too subtle to notice, it's like effectively not there anyway.
Well, you'll definitely be able to see it when you're there.
True. Yeah. I guess the reason why it looks so jarring in the movie version is because of the double jump of the movie version is because when he does a single jump, he looks down even if he's like right and like if he's not looking. It just looks weird. He's looking at the ground when there's nothing to look at on the ground. But for the second jump, I don't know. It's hard to explain without showing it. I guess I can try to show it, but I don't have any gameplay to show of movie. But pretty much, I think the first animation is fine to be like kind of stiff, but the second one should be more like he should look to the sky or tilt his head back to show that he's putting effort into the jump.
Here, Shift. I sent you on Twitter the your long play of movie.
Movie. Yeah, I don't know. This is like a kind of like a short, small thing.
Move. Oh god, fucking damn it.
All right, this is a platforming section.
It takes you like 30 seconds to find it.
Oh, you know what it is? It's the same, but the thing they added in the movie is that if he falls for too long, his head starts to bob down off a single jump. Yeah, you see that? Let me pause it again. That's a pretty decent detail. Like if he falls for too long, that frame right there, his head kind of bobs down a little bit to show that he's looking at the ground that he's about to fall on. That's actually a pretty good modification. I like that. But you can see here, it's the same. This jump is the same in the original Battle for Bikini Bottom as well. The second jump where he tilts his head back, I think that you know what it is too? His legs come up really high when he jumps.
Oh yeah, they're like on his sides.
Yeah, let's well, this
It's
is
like-
the
it's like-
IGN
it's like-
video, but it got recommended to me. Where's the need some good platforming.
Category any percent.
All right. So when he jumps, his feet come up really, really high, like almost up to his chest when he jumps. And
It's
as you were
almost like-
talking earlier about the capsule collision, his feet are probably individual capsules. So when you jump like that, you can kind of squeeze your ass over whatever ledge you're jumping over.
That would make sense.
It
But-
almost feels like his body is like a doll when he's jumping.
Yeah,
The
it's
way
like
his
he's
feet
like,
kind of wobble around and jiggle.
and when he jumps in this game, his feet kind of like they're like
It
kind
looks
of
so
like they're like kind of like pegs.
It looks so scripted.
When you're programming, it's usually better to have like some kind of animation in, and
Oh, wait,
then just
oh, wait,
go
his
back
feet do
and
come
refine it.
It's so stiff though. Like you can see his feet do come up when he jumps. His first jump it does that, but it's so quick. It's like
It doesn't do it for the second jump though.
yeah, it doesn't.
Another thing too that I noticed is also when he runs away from the robots, he's letting his arms flail around, but he's not really flailing in the original. He's kind of like waving them around like help me. If I can this actually is showcased here. I can rewind it a little bit. Wait, why is this? Oh, this is a highlight reel. Okay. That's why this is like this. Let me get the actual run up. All right, so let's go back to Goo Lagoon. There's a lot of platforming here, so you can kind of see, like, if you watch his movement. This moment here, where the G-Love notices him. Do you see how he has his arms kind of, like, out? Instead of, like, flailing
Yeah.
back, they're kind of, like,
yeah.
out like he's scared.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like this more or less, but I just feel like the emotion, the expression is not really the same.
Honestly,
it's
I
not-
think the new game I think it's more expressive in the new game with how he flails his arms behind him and everything. Like he's
I just don't
like
think
he's fighting.
that's like an afraid expression. That's more of like he's just letting his arms go like he's running away. But I think here he
I
looks
think the
more
face does it.
scared. It's really subjective, though. Honestly, it's not that big of
Yeah.
a deal. But what I think, as far as the jumping movement goes, I think that's super important to nail, to show how squishy he is. That was one of the things people were saying, is like in those words, he doesn't look as squishy as he does in the original. And of course, this is something that's not going to make it in. But yeah, we don't need it.
What? No sponge glide.
When you compare the movements side by side, it's yeah.
All right, I got a good fun question to ask. So let's say that the devs want to put in one glitch in the game, but it ends up being like what glitch do you not want if they pick one? Like what do you think would be the worst one that they could add?
Out of like useful things that we use in the run,
Yeah, I guess
Lagging.
so.
or do you mean like bad shit, like
Yeah, like,
the GameCube glitch where if you press the A button once, it just double jumps back to back on like the same frame or whatever, like 2 frames apart. Like,
Oh, I didn't know.
I don't know if
Oh.
you know about that one, but
It's the double jump glitch where you just press it once and it double inputs the input.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
awful.
fun.
it's
Yeah,
like
it's pretty
it's in the
cool.
actual game.
It's
Oh,
it's
oh,
like
pretty cool.
hard code. It's just an actual glitch. In
it's like-
Dolphin, you'll just jump right out of the fucking needle.
Hey, SpongeBob fans, we added a glitch to the game to help appease to you guys, and it's that fucking glitch.
I don't think
You know,
that we
I-
need like well, we obviously need cruise boosting, but like sponge gliding is cool, but it's not like a huge movement thing.
I wouldn't really be upset to see that go, because that would allow us to actually have a different kind of Goo Lagoon, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Goo Lagoon is so it's so broken because of that glitch. And again,
Yeah,
like
it just completely turns the level on its just upside down, basically, and like you never see it in its proper form in basically any category, if I'm not mistaken.
Because of Sponge Glide, you do all of Goo Lagoon backwards
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
in almost every single run. I mean, you even do it backwards in NG Plus, so yeah, it's in every single run. You do it backwards.
I actually kind of like how the bubbles look around the sock. And,
I think it's
Definitely
just
makes it
too
easier
bright.
for people to look for it.
I think the sock needs to be brighter in the bubble, but I
Yeah,
like the idea
yeah.
of the bubble itself.
It is hard to see like what's inside the bubble until you're closer up to it.
also, I think
But maybe that's
they
the point.
actually hit a nail on the head with this change to the floating tikis, because I almost feel like the bubble is supposed to be transparent under, like, looking at this now, it makes more sense that the floating tikis had the bubbles under them to make them float, but in the original version
It looks
was
like a
a dot.
pearl.
it looks like a
Yeah,
pearl, but like you don't know, like I guess like maybe they
Oh,
forgot
wow.
to make it transparent. It's just like, looking at this now, it just seems like, holy shit, this is how it was supposed to look. Like, it makes more sense. Where can I find
That's
one of
a
these
great
things?
freeze frame right there.
Where do we even encounter floating tikis in this run?
Never.
Oh, it's in Dutchman's Graveyard.
I would say Dutchman's right after the pole.
It looks like a pearl. Like, how is this thing
Yeah.
floating?
It
Maybe it
looks
was
like a rock.
Maybe it was supposed to be a bubble, but they never added transparency to it. Maybe they just forgot.
That's smart. That's pretty cool.
I think
actually
the
like
issue
that
with it in
change.
the original is it just looked like it's part of the tiki.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's two separate entities.
Yeah, I actually really like that change.
I like the helmet. Helmet seems pretty much normal.
Did you see
Movement,
the...
not so much, but the look definitely.
I think
Yeah.
movement-wise, the helmet is obviously scuffed, but
Oh yeah, I was saying
like it a
visually.
lot.
Visually,
Visually,
yeah.
it's really nice.
I'd say most of the visuals are pretty much a direct upgrade. There's a few things that need work, but like the overall look is it's pretty good.
I think
I
the biggest
absolutely
thing
love
that
the
people
new
are
Kind
talking
of
about...
funny.
You can go ahead.
It's kind of funny how the way that the robots come out of the duplication tron, is that how you call that thing? It's interesting that
Duplicator-tron,
they it's interesting that when the robots come out of that, they come out like little cans.
Yeah, instead of the balls.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool design choice.
So this is the one thing that people have talked about a lot, is the design of SpongeBob himself. And this image on my screen right now is the kind of the image that's being passed around. People are talking about a lot.
Oh yeah, the one on the right is objectively better.
Yeah,
Objectively
they're just
better.
like very small things, like the cleft in his chin, and the way his like, it kind of looks like his body is more like, his body is shaped into his pants than his pants are kind of like around his body. You know, like the pants are kind of like holding his body in, and it gets bigger as he
And the eyes look a lot better as well.
Yeah, she's like, so it looks like
Eyes are
he's
more
actually
round.
like fucking like he looks like
He
he
looks
just got off
he
that
looks
season.
faded. Yeah, he literally looks like he's like withdrawing on the left.
And day 3.
He can still hold a smile, but he's actually like dying.
Another thing too is the
fucking
eyelashes are like, that's a small detail.
Dude,
that,
those are literally obviously penciled on in the left. Like
Yeah.
the
those are
eyelashes
fake.
actually look like, it's hard to notice until you see the one on the right, but they're like really long and they make them look more feminine.
Good old fentanyl.
he used stencils. We got him on.
This is probably a decision by
Hey man, he's got
Nickelodeon to
that
make
shit
him
on
look like
fleek
that.
though.
Because I imagine in the remake they're making SpongeBob to look as he is in the current show,
But
which
they
makes
did
sense.
say that they want to capture the golden, like the guy on the left did mention It was
It's
the
the
golden
golden
era
era
of SpongeBob, and they want to
yeah.
capture how it felt to play the game back then, but with a more modern tone to it. So like, I feel like it can go either way. But the fact that they acknowledge like the golden era of
The
SpongeBob
golden age, yeah.
versus
The fact that
what
they're
was-
even saying that's a thing is actually kind of crazy because
I think
Considering they're
everyone knows that
working
SpongeBob's
underneath.
considering
gone
they're
downhill.
working with Nick, it kind of implies that the show fell off. But I guess that's not too big of a deal.
Yeah.
Well, it means that they at least acknowledge that like the first 3 seasons and like they're aiming to hit the current look of it.
Yeah. The game really did come out at peak SpongeBob. That's the thing. Like that in
It
the
was like-
movie game.
Right as season 2 was about to be aired, I think, like around that time, or it was in the middle of airing season 2. But the game was probably
makes
finished
me
development
glad.
by the time season 3 was out.
It makes me glad that they're preserving the dialogue and all of the I maybe not the
They didn't
not
preserve all
necessarily,
the
like,
dialogue
audio-
though. They got rid of the "you do that" quote in the beginning when he says,
Oh yeah, you're right.
rub the jellyfish jelly all over yourself" thing. I was really sad when I didn't see that line make it in, but maybe they still have to add it in. It's one of the best parts of the game. But as I was saying earlier, yeah, this came out like right as season 2 was ending, I think, or maybe like halfway through season 3. Well, actually, I think maybe was because this was 2003. It was like October, November 2003. This was a year before the movie came out, so maybe they were like pretty much done with season 3. There
Yeah,
aren't a
don't
lot of
forget
references
that,
to season 3 in the show in the game though.
That's true. Remember though that episodes are made fairly early. The lengthy part of episode creation is when they get colored and actually animated. So they probably already had the writing done for most of it. And they could have had writing that may have been similar to season 3. But they probably didn't want to make like references to season 3 if the episodes had never even been released yet.
Wikipedia says
It
season
takes
2.
a long time for for the season to actually finish
Right.
because it's a week. They were released weekly, or maybe even more than that. And there's like 40 episodes, or maybe
Yeah.
not.
So Wiki says there was 20 episodes, and it started from October 26, 2000 to July 26, 2003 for season 2.
All right,
Wow,
so the
that's
game
wild.
came out literally 3 months after season 3 dropped, or finished. So that's like, yeah, pretty much peak SpongeBob. That's like when it was, exploding, and the movie was announced and everything, and then the movie was kind of like the end of that period. A lot of people say.
So we discussed the character model, we discussed the physics. I think we should talk about this specific clip here. Let me pull it up. Oh, it's recommended. Perfect.
Patrick, you grab the freezy fruit, which
See,
we
sometimes
passed,
YouTube knows what we want
earlier,
to watch.
and you throw it on the goo. Then the goo freezes, and you can walk on it. With Sandy, so you can also only do that with Patrick. And with Sandy, you have her lasso, and you can lasso your way.
Oh, is this
across
the clip
level.
of them talking
So
about the
they are
speedrunning
obviously-
community?
Oh yeah. You guys probably can't hear. Let me just put it here. We'll start at the same time. All right. All right.
All right.
It's fine.
All right.
Oh,
Ready?
it's fine. I can. Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
If with Patrick, you grab the freezy fruit, which we passed earlier, and you throw it on the goo.
You know, it's a
then the
freezy
goo
fruit.
freezes, and you
Honestly,
can
I never thought that was a
with
fruit.
Sandy, so you can also
I
only
thought it
do
was
that
just a
with
block
Patrick.
of ice
And
when I
with
was a
Sandy,
kid.
You have her lasso, and you can lasso your way across the level. So there, obviously, if there was a glitch in the old one that allowed you to go somewhere where you shouldn't with another character, then we will likely try to avoid it. But this particular thing, I think.
I can see there's actually been some real debate about
Yeah.
this because I'm
Oh my
personally a
God.
speedrunning fan. I like to watch speedruns and I enjoy that community a lot.
I love the
I love-
realization.
Yeah, I love it. So
Making the
good.
game glitchy.
This man's in my chat.
That fucking grin.
This guy knows about Diaper
No
Gang.
matter what.
Yeah, it's so great.
Oh my god. But I just love the
Oh, no.
this personal interaction between them right here, where you could tell it's something that's been like I feel like
It
this
shows
is like
like there's
some
actual
heated shit.
conversation.
There's like this seems like something they really talked about a lot based on the body
It's
language.
a fucking controversy.
swear to
It's a
God.
controversy in their studio about this damn trick.
Yeah, I swear to God, if they want to make like a little like a hidden Easter egg to nod at like the community, and it's a fucking
Oh my
diaper,
God.
there's gonna be some real fucking problems.
No, that diaper is my community,
Oh
not
my
the battle
God.
community. Okay.
Yeah, I would actually just kill myself on the spot.
I was
Just
gonna say
fucking
that,
end it all.
But
Oh my God.
fucking hidden in the fucking the theater, fucking diaper somewhere.
Yeah, you
Oh,
fucking
God.
unlock
Difficulty
you unlock the
spikes in
theater, and
combat.
it's just fucking the diaper gang emote.
Oh no.
If cruise boosting actually does make it into the game, though, like if
It won't be a one frame hard thing to do.
No, I
There's
think
no
it would.
way it'll
I
end
think
up
it would
being
be.
that.
they
I think
should
it would
they
be.
should make it at the same level of timing at least. Like give it whatever. I don't know. I guess this would be something that Satch should weigh in on. But how would that work? Like, because I don't think that these games on PC at least have like frame bound mechanics. Like if you compare it to like I guess like Dark Souls, that's a game where they actually do have like actions that happen on a specific frame to make the
So-
combat more technical, right?
You can
Yeah, exactly, what
frame
you just
lock
said.
any Unreal game just by going into a drop down and just saying what frame you want it to go. I do that a lot for testing if I want to test on like computers that are going to get like 20 frames a second. So it would be possible to replicate it, though the thing about cruise boosting is that the reason why it's such a miracle bug is because it uses a lot of bad practices from my understanding. As you can probably imagine, because it's
Yeah.
pretty wild. So my understanding of cruise boosting in the original is that there is some sort of function that translates SpongeBob automatically every frame while he's doing his bubble bowl. Now, if you cancel the animation for some reason, that state never goes away, and it continues to translate him forward continually until you use bubble bowl again. There's really no good reason why you would want to translate SpongeBob ever in a 3D engine when there's already so many different ways you could translate an object in 3D space. Like you can give him more movement speed. You could say push him along a spline, like as you say, and with like the bash move or a trampoline, like they kind of like script his movement so he goes directly up and directly down.
There are some trampolines that kind of like partially script it, but you still have freedom to move as well. They're like it's like a halfway point.
Like in Small Shell Rule, all those trampolines are like scripted, but you have very slight.
Nah, Small Shell Rule is one of those where it's just hardcore scripted, but Kelp Vines is one where you have more control. Like you can do like turns and specifically choose where you land on them because they're not as they don't force you to go. They don't really restrict your movement. They script it, but it's more loose, if that makes sense.
So for cruise boosting to even exist, they would need to put a really bad practice in the game and then also find a way to trigger it that doesn't disable like casual play in any way.
Well,
so I don't think it's very likely at all.
With the bowling ability, it does lunge you forward a bit, right? So would it be possible to just like say like add an argument like if you use the cruise bubble on like the same at the same time as this one, whatever frame window or time window they designate as being the same time, like if you use it on that at that specific moment, it stops, like it just loops whatever speed you have, not loop, but you know what I mean, like it holds whatever speed you currently have.
I think one thing to understand about the usage of the word speed is that in cruise boosting's case, it's way different from what every other speed you would consider for the game. Like it isn't like pushing them along a set like direction or anything. It's just wherever SpongeBob's facing, just continue to push him forward. And then if his mesh collides with a wall, then he stops moving. But as soon as he starts getting to a position where he can move again, he keeps moving. So I don't think there's another function like that in any part of the game that's that particular, and I don't see them using that function in this version of the game. But that's not to say that they can't program it in.
Well, I mean, like, it's a different game engine though. Like, depending on how we have to wait to see how they program the bubble bowl because we still haven't really seen how they're gonna do that yet. It's probably not programmed at all.
I always imagined the cruise boost as a force that pushes SpongeBob, and the strength of that force is dependent on the momentum value.
So the way that I understand it works is it takes your current bowling speed and it locks it in place, and that's how you get the specific values. And since it's depicted on the bowling speed, when you use the cruise missile, it locks it in place and it pushes you forward as if you were bowling permanently.
Yeah.
Without the animation of the bowl.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I feel is
that's why the sound continuously plays.
Yeah, it just plays on a loop.
It's a
Unless
special
you're
kind
on
of
PS2.
speed, though. That's why when you start walking, it increases the amount that SpongeBob's moving, because it's not only SpongeBob's walking speed, but it's also this extra function that's pushing him forward.
It's his de facto speed.
Yeah, essentially. I could probably do a half-hour video on it, honestly, because it just seems so bizarre.
I'd love to watch
they would use
that.
that
I'd
method.
eat that up, honestly.
And then maybe I can conclude it by seeing if we could actually program cruise boosting inside Unreal Engine.
That would
I
be
think if they,
really
I think if
fucking
they have
cool.
any hope of doing a cruise boost, I think it would have to be some sort of force applied to SpongeBob. I think that's really how it would have to be handled.
Because like if you are in Dolphin and you're able to edit the values and you have the bowling state speed, you can just add a value to it and it automatically applies it. Like if you give yourself a 30 cruise boost speed, it'll just send you forward.
Yeah, you
So
can do
it's
that by
its
editing
own
memory
different
values.
thing. Yeah, it's like it is as if it's its own separate movement. So there's the walking movement and then there's bowling movement. They're two separate entities.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think there's anything else like that in the game, and I don't see them using something similar to that in this version of SpongeBob.
It's just in the original, the Bubble Bowl is the most broken piece of shit, and it happens to be that almost everything works off of it.
My personal theory for why they decided to go about it this way in the original is that they wanted it to seem more fluid when, let's say, SpongeBob's moving at a really fast speed and uses the bubble bowl. They didn't want him to slow down to a crawl and then go like a set speed forward that's designated by the animation.
Funny you mentioned
They wanted him
that.
to keep his momentum.
The movie game actually does just that. So I think they changed that.
Wait, that's how they patched cruise boosting in that game.
I think they just they lumped it into one speed maybe, but cruise boosting effect actually does work in the movie game, but it can be activated from bowling into a bungee instead.
I thought that the reason why it doesn't work in movies because
it
of the
doesn't
guitar.
it doesn't give you a speed boost, but it does appear that way that that Satcher's describing about how it just stops his momentum and it doesn't feel like it flows as much.
Yeah,
I think in the original, the movement speed of the bowl just helps enforce that cruise boosting is possible. Like, it's not that, because then we can still do bungee boosting. It's just we have the access to something else that gives us the movement.
From a coding perspective, from like a software development perspective, I wonder if the value of the bubble bowl speed is directly related to the animation of the animation frames of the bubble bowl. I wonder if because you can cancel it and because the function that sets the value of the bubble bowl speed, it doesn't change until the last frame of the bubble bowl animation. And because you can cancel it, it gives you your cruise boosting, because you can do it with the trampoline as well. So if there's something that cancels that animation, I'm not sure like that. This is why I really wish that we had the source code for the original game, because I feel like it would solve so many questions, because the code doesn't lie. If there's one thing I've ever learned in software development, it's that the code does not lie.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it would be very interesting to take a look. I haven't seen the versions of cruise boosting using a trampoline, so it's kind of hard for me to say.
So trampoline cruise boosting is kind of weird where I believe that the trampolines that I was saying before, they have scripted movement that kind of push you in a certain direction. There are two types of those. There are the ones where you can still move around, but you're still being guided into a direction, and there's the other one that completely locks you into a direction. So I think that which direction you go into is more of like that's what's hard coded, but it can be overwritten by cruise boosting. The height can't be overwritten though. So an example of this, I'll pull up a video now, is in Dutchman's Graveyard, one of these strats that we use in the Graveyard Lake. So I'm actually there now. Okay, so if you watch this video, how I do this Graveyard Lake segment, you're gonna see also like during the spatula animation, I'm still getting pushed. I don't know if that's the same thing though. It's just that the game happens in real time around you when that happens. So this is an example of a scripted trampoline. So what this trampoline is supposed to do is push you, it's supposed to bounce you forward and back up to this platform that I'm on right now. It's supposed to script you that way and bounce you that way. So, but when you jump on it with a cruise boost, since cruise boosting forces you to go whichever way you're facing, it forces you to go in this direction, which you can modify the direction of the scripted trampoline to go on top of this boat. However, the height of the trampoline is not modified though. It's just the direction it goes into is modified by which way you're facing, because cruise boosting pushes you in the direction you're facing.
Wait, I thought that the speed of your cruise boost determines how high trampolines send you up.
Sorry, guys.
Holy shit.
I am very sorry.
Is that the burger?
Where's the Monka S's? There they are. There they are. There's the Monka S's.
I'm sorry.
Go fucking dies.
Yeah,
Oh man.
No, it's not the speed of the cruise boost. There are some trampolines in the game where if you slam on them, you get more height. So maybe that's what you're thinking of as well. But
that
the height is scripted, but you can overwrite the direction with the direction of your cruise boost. I don't know what say you about that, Satch.
Do you think that these forces could just be completely independent? Like, it's just that cruise boosting is acting along with the trampoline, and that's just the final vector that SpongeBob moves? Or is it very different?
It completely overwrites whichever direction you're facing. Like, it's not... It appears to not even take the intended scripted direction of the trampoline into consideration. It seems to only just take from the cruise boost movement. Like it only goes in the exact direction you're being forced in.
I want to see the source code for this game so bad.
I wonder, do the trampolines that let you slam on it for a little more height, do those have separate data values, I wonder?
I don't know. That's something you'd have to ask Seal.
Because it seems like there's like 2, maybe 3 different types of like trampolines.
They all have different types of like values and stuff.
Yeah.
So somehow the Sponge Bowl speed, or I guess I shouldn't call it speed. It's like the Sponge Bowl translation value is somehow being taken, but the direction, or no, the speed of the trampoline is being taken into consideration, but the direction of the Sponge Bowl is what the final.
I believe that
is.
it probably has priority over the trampoline. And as I was saying before with the different values and stuff, what I said earlier is a lot of these trampolines seems to be, there are like 3 different types, but they have different values for height and direction and so forth. Like there are the ones where you have complete control, the ones where you have partial control, and the ones where you have no control.
Yeah, that's. I'm not sure how to make sense of that.
But the ones where you have partial control, you can completely control which way you're going. I think that the ones that have no control just completely lock your ability to move with the analog stick when you touch them. That's probably what it does. Like as soon as you touch it, it stops you from being able to move.
This is an interesting thing I just thought of. So, in regards to these 3 different types of trampolines that we're talking about here, do you ever see all 3 types in a single level, or do you only ever see 2? Because there's obviously going to always be the trampolines where you can just bounce off of them and do whatever you want. But the scripted ones, the ones where you can kind of control where you're going as opposed to the ones that are absolutely scripted, do you see both of those types in any level?
I was thinking about that earlier.
Because similar to how the boxes are designed differently in certain levels because different developers worked on them, I wonder if the trampolines have 2 different implementations.
Because 2 different people coded it, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there partial control trampolines in this demo?
There's only one
No.
trampoline that's totally hard coded to send you. It looks
yeah.
extremely scripted. You saw that one
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
It's the one after the
Like,
Like, it
barrel.
looks
song,
so
right?
scripted that there's like a waypoint where you go. It looks really, really stiff.
The one clip I wanted to pull up was comparing the scripted movement of the trampoline to how you get launched out of goo.
Oh, when the girl is playing?
Yeah. 'Cause
And
it seems
it's
to be
near,
very similar.
Can you send me
It's
that in
near-
DM on Twitter? I'll pull it up.
Yeah, so like it seems like right now the at least in the demo the scripted the slam from the trampoline and the bounce from the goo, they're like kind of like the same thing where they both send you in specific areas.
Now, does the bounce from the goo, does that damage you in the remake? I never noticed that.
It damages you in the where you land. I don't exactly remember, but I'm pretty sure we determined that it was like entirely scripted.
No. I'm talking about
Oh, there was
does it
a
take health
point.
away?
Yeah. The original
was-
like OG clip that we watched, like on the first ever look at the remake, where the devs weren't present, there was a weird damage boost.
It was
Right.
when the girl was going up through where the pufferfish cannon is.
I just sent
Yeah.
it.
Oh
to
no,
Twitter.
it wasn't there wasn't a let's play or anything like that. It was the one where let me find it. It was the pre-recorded one that we watched. Okay, I found it. Yeah, this is the one that was pre-recorded. All right, so this is the damage boost you're about to watch. I don't know, what do you think of this? It looks like
It seems like the direction you go is just
Displacement.
outwardly to wherever you get hit.
Yeah, I would say it just is dependent on the object's location versus SpongeBob's location. And then the vector that you get launched is just wherever that would whatever direction those 2 objects are facing.
what's up with the slow floating to the ground? It seems because in the original version you just keep going flying from that, but it seems like he stops after a certain point, like he gets kind of bungee corded back in.
That might have been one of the solutions they tried to implement for like stacking different
Like
hit stun
damage
launches.
boosting.
Yeah. So there's a function in Unreal for default characters that involves launching them in the air. So there's a different override you can set for him. One is called XY velocity, which will stop his translation in forward and would just launch him in that direction. And there's another separate one for Z. They might be using the Z one, where it stops all his falling momentum completely, launches him a set distance upward, and then has him fall down after that launch.
Because like
period is
in the
over.
original version, it seems like you are locked at Y here because he goes straight to the side. He doesn't get sent down at all. In the original version, you get launched all the way across. You would not stop moving in the original. You just get launched all the way over to the side. And it looks like super like stiff, honestly, when I watch it. Do you think this was like intentionally added?
I think it was kind of a band-aid for making sure you can't stack the damage boosts. Because in like default Unreal, what I notice in my game sometimes is if I don't try to clamp that force, I would be launched in one direction, and then the momentum from my still gaining upward momentum after the first damage boost will stack with the second one, and then I'll just go into the stratosphere.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think it's not really a matter of like if they can like patch it up and make it look better. I think it's a matter of like if they see it as an important thing, they probably can do it if they see it's fit.
Yeah, I agree. There's another clip I just sent you on Twitter for the goo.
Yep, I'll just I'll play the other one in the meantime. This is a freeze frame right here. It's uvula. All right.
The uvula.
Oh, this is actually a really good, yeah, I was gonna say freeze frame, but this is a really good clip. Yeah, this looks really harsh, but I see what you're saying about like the possibility of getting sent into the stratosphere, like, because I assume like the way they had the movement program right now, if he didn't get bungee corded back to the ground, he just keep going up.
Yeah, and this looks very scripted. That looks kind of similar to how the trampolines work. And
Yeah, it's
what I
almost like
found,
it sends them up for a certain amount of time, and then it finds the closest ledge after going up that time, and then snaps you to it.
one thing I noticed is that I think it has to do with where he used to be standing. One of the functions I would make in some of my games, if there's like a void out feature, is I would trace to the ground and I would see if my character is currently standing on something. And I would also make sure it's the size of their capsule, so when they get bounced back up, they have a place to stand. Because if you notice, there's a point where she's on that smaller ledge, but it doesn't actually send SpongeBob back up to that smaller ledge. It sends him back up to the place he was originally standing before he got on that small
Yeah,
ledge.
that's how the original game works too. That's how we
Yeah.
manipulate some of the damage boost directions, because you can jump on a little tiny object or a ledge where the game doesn't necessarily update his position to where he last stood, because again, like, he doesn't have room to land. So you would just use that to manipulate for like early towers, for example, where the game doesn't have a place to put you, so it puts you back to where you were before, and in turn get a larger damage boost. So at least that looks like it seems kind of similar, but of course there needs to be a lot of work, yeah, because what it seems like from what you're saying, there needs to be like a major overhaul to make it feel similar to how it does in the original, if they feel it's necessary.
Yeah, if they replaced the script with the like some kind of launch feature that would actually put SpongeBob into the falling state like the original does, where you can double jump afterwards.
Almost like a ragdoll thing, right? Like there's probably a script for that somewhere.
Kind of like ragdolls in particular are a little tricky because you let SpongeBob's physics control where he's going to end up. Though,
So that's just completely wrong then.
yeah, kind of. But
Straight up.
that would be interesting, though. That would be like a
Savage.
funny thing to suggest to them.
Yeah, I just think of like a ragdoll type thing, not necessarily like based on how the limbs interact, but how, like, when you get flung somewhere, it just kind of lets honestly, I don't understand. Obviously, I don't understand how the physics work behind it, but when I think of ragdoll physics as a casual game player, I typically think of like how the character bounces around or like gets kind of thrown around based on how the game's physics work.
Yeah, and that would work if the character was mesh-based collision. But I'm pretty sure he's using a capsule here. But there is a workaround for that. You can make him the root for the time being, have the camera follow his mesh, and then quickly move the capsule to where SpongeBob is, and then play like a get-up animation, and then continue the gameplay from there. So it is possible.
That's interesting.
I do play some Gary's mod myself.
There's another clip that had to do with ledges. So I noticed there was a one-frame thing that looked very suspicious.
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't know the timestamp. Let's get that up.
I'll send it to you.
God, that animation. Is this it?
That ledge grab was so scuffed.
Yeah, so there's one frame where SpongeBob's like completely inside the platform, like around the middle of it.
Yeah. So this is being. Do you think this is being played on a PC, or do you think it's frame locked?
That's really hard to tell.
You can advance.
I'm trying to figure out if it's frame locked, but
believe.
it's hard to know. Like you can see.
I believe the developer said that it was going to be frame locked, the game. Like
They said all consoles
not-
60, but I don't know if they meant PC as well with that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Can you kind of try to get the one frame where he's inside?
Yeah,
the platform?
you can advance YouTube videos by one frame, I believe.
Yeah, I got you. It's the little carrot things.
Yeah.
Where is this on my keyboard? Somewhere here.
It's just period and comma.
Is this the one frame you're talking about?
Yeah, that's it.
That's so stuff. Wow,
So-
that is so much displacement.
So my theory for why this happens is that, like I said, the capsule is the root for SpongeBob, and you can kind of tell by that the fact that the camera isn't following him while he's doing this. It's only his model that's moving, and that's because the camera's attached to the capsule, not SpongeBob's model. And I think what they're doing here is they're playing an animation that has SpongeBob start lower than where he's supposed to be, and the capsule is actually on top of where the ledge is. So when the model gets displaced from the animation, there's like a one frame delay for when the model tries to figure itself out, possibly. They might be doing some inverse kinematics with the ledge position. So SpongeBob's hands would snap to where the ledge actually is. But it is very interesting, though I wouldn't get too excited about trying to clip into the floor with this, because it might just be his model that's in there, not the actual capsule.
Yeah, the thing about like the ledge grabs and clipping through stuff with them is that it seems like I assume going into this, not even seeing footage, that you're probably not going to be able to clip through stuff because the polygons are just so much more defined in this newer version than they would be in the original. Because in the original, like there are legit like some surfaces, like some ground areas that have flat polygons on them, so you can just grab them and clip through like slides and floors and ceilings and stuff. But I assume that's not going to be a thing in this game. Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, that still depends on how collision works on ledges. It's possible that they placed in rectangles that are the locations of the ledges.
So you're saying that they're specifically adding certain spots where you can only ledge grab instead of being able to grab anywhere?
I mean, it could be automatic as well.
I feel like that's a spot like where he's grabbing right now. Like, why would they think to add it as a spot to grab a ledge? I feel like it is.
Yeah.
It might just be collision
It
box
might be an
based.
artifact. It might be an artifact that the Unreal Engine automatically does because it knows that it can do ledge grabs.
Mhm.
That would be more of a question for you, Satch, if you know anything about ledges in regards to the Unreal Engine.
So there are a few ways to do ledge grabs. One would be, like it was mentioned earlier, about like having rectangles. So that's good for games like Mirror's Edge, for example, if you want to have a lot of control over how your characters respond to ledges. Though for SpongeBob, what they're probably using is a procedural method where they have two different line traces going off of his head, probably like around his eyes, and another one a little bit lower towards his nose. So the way it works is you have one trace that looks to see if there's collision in front of you, and the other one looks to see if it's open. So if the one that's higher than the upper trace, if that doesn't detect any collision, but the lower one does, that means you're right next to a ledge, and you can start playing the ledge grab animation.
Yeah, so that would definitely depend on how they decided to do the collision on the the ground models.
I think it's very likely that they're using a procedural method.
Mm-hmm.
So any time SpongeBob is up against the ledge, he'll grab onto it, unless they try to specify no ledge grab for whatever reason.
I think we were talking about cruise boosting at one point, like how that could be implemented, or if it'd even be possible to do it. You said that, like, you said, because again, like we're basing this idea of cruise boosting off of how it works in the original game, but ultimately, as long as it feels like it can still effectively pass as it for somebody who's just playing. I think that to make any judgment calls on like whether it can happen or not, do you think it would probably matter if we probably have to see how the bubble bowl works first, or do you just think that it shouldn't matter whether we see how it works or not, like how they decide to program the bubble bowl? Because for all we know, they could just end up doing the movie thing where it just stays in place, which would suck. But I mean,
for cruise boosting to exist, you need a function that translates SpongeBob a set distance over every single frame while he's in some sort of state. It doesn't really matter what, but
yeah, it could just be a state that you create out of just for the sake of cruise boosting itself, you know?
Yeah.
Like adding if we're adding as a feature, it doesn't have to be programmed like a glitch like the original was, as long as the feature exists. But your issue with it was that it could take too much memory, or like it would take too many resources to make something like that happen.
No, not at all. It would be very efficient to implement something like that, like computationally. Though I think just the idea of taking a character, like translating SpongeBob by just moving him is really kind of an absurd thing to do in a modern game engine when you have so many other tools. Like you can take the animation, for example, and seeing the offset of his hips and say his capsule now follows where SpongeBob's hips are. That's called root motion. You can move him across a distance like the trampolines do, where it's a set line that he goes across. You can make it part of his character movement, where it's just SpongeBob walking. There are a bunch of different ways you can do it, and translating him is by far the simplest one, but is most prone to error, as we see with cruise boosting.
Right,
So,
that's why you can clip through so many things with it, because again, like the cruise bubble, this is kind of like a little bit off topic, but like the cruise bubble does allow you to clip through stuff just by the sake of the animation, like colliding with I think what the technical reason behind it is they're like there's like a frame of intangibility where you use it and you can clip through something during that frame. So because you're just kind of pushing into a wall and it's not checking for that frame, you just kind of just keep getting pushed into the wall because you're still translating into it, like you were saying before.
SpongeBob can clip through, or the cruise bubble?
He physically does. Like he does it during the animation. So if you press the L button while you're going into a wall, for those set frames where you can't touch anything, or rather it's not checking his collision for those frames, you just kind of push through the wall because, again, it's just translating you forward, but it's not checking collision. So in the original game, it is like checking collision while translating you. It's weird because it's again it's the same movement type as the bubble ball, I suppose. Yeah,
that is interesting. I think
because again, like some of the problems you were saying that could arise, just like you were mentioning, like when you touch a wall, it checks to see if you're there, and then you just kind of collide with the wall, or like what were some of the problems you were thinking could arise from this?
It's not that it's bad for the sake of clipping through things. Just having that function in general is just bad practice. Just having this idea of I'm just going to move SpongeBob regardless of what he's doing a set distance in front of him. And you can still check for collision along the way. Like that isn't a problem. And you can make sure that they don't clip through. But stuff for like cutscenes, you're still going to see SpongeBob moving around. Like
yeah,
we see.
Exactly. That's exactly what we want. It's just wacky, stupid shit like that. Exactly.
So it's definitely possible. And I could do it in Unreal Engine, but
that'd be really cool to try that out and like see how it feels if you can nail it.
I'll give it my best shot.
we could bring that back for another day if you can get that working.
Yeah.
This Cruise Boost Simulator 2019.
Pretty much. I mean, whatever. because I'm going there in like a month and a half. So whatever we have to show them, because if it's in the same engine, I could just bring it to them if you'd let me. Like
I'll
that.
give you the source code.
Yeah, that'd be a cool thing to show them if we can try to like, well, by we I mean you, with us like testing it and like giving you feedback on it. Like we could send it to them and they could take a look at the source code and see like, oh, okay, this is what feels good to them. That'd be a much easier and more effective way than articulating it to them like for the day that I'm going to be there. Like, oh, this feels right, this doesn't feel right. We could have like more of a back and forth going if like maybe you and maybe some other people we could find who also work on it could test some different types of mechanics and have something to show to them. Is that something you'd be interested in doing?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Cool.
I think there would be much more open to doing something like that if it doesn't cost them like hundreds of hours watching VODs and trying to see if they could nail the movement. If we could just do it for them.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking too. We can effectively test their game outside of their game.
How many people are on the dev team? Do we know?
No idea yet. But this seems like a much more effective practice than just going there and saying, "Oh yeah, this isn't fast enough," or "This is too floaty," or it's just hard to articulate. These are things you can't really talk with language, honestly. Like that's the whole thing about speedrunning too, is like the more you play, the better you get at the movement, but you can't really explain to somebody what makes your movement better than theirs. It's more of like you have to get a feel for it on your own. So these kinds of things, like, you wouldn't be able to figure out in a day just going there and practicing stuff. You'd have to be over a long period of testing things and going back and forth between the original and the mock game, I suppose.
Yeah, developers are expensive. Keep that in mind too. Like these people get paid like 6 figures.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. See, like the thing is, the animations can be obviously they're added in post. I think just it might be difficult to judge how the movement feels, not being able to see how it animates, but that's something we could probably look past if you were to make like a cruise boost simulator. Like if it's just like a square, like a rectangular prism that just kind of floats around. Might be hard to judge like if it feels right, but I mean we could try to work past it though, because obviously don't want to make you like animate stuff, like that's just too much work. Yeah.
Yeah, can you just make the game for us for free?
Yeah, right. Just make the game for us.
Yeah, I'll get back to you in like 2 years.
Yeah, I feel like the only things we really need to like see if it works the right way is just like obviously the translation you were talking about, but also what were you saying? As opposed to the different types of collision, right? We wanted the collision type that wasn't the mask, but the one that has the different collision boxes for the different parts of his body.
Oh yeah, like
a skeletal
based collision.
Yeah.
No, I think you're talking about the skeletal kind where there's the shapes that are around his joints and bones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like some kind of like block to indicate what those
capsules around his arms.
Well, what we should do is take a look at how, because we should see how the collision works in the original game, and if it does happen to work like that, try to replicate. Like obviously, like the animation is not important, but see how those. Well, actually, would be important in this case because it'd be based on. Oh, this is an advertisement. I just realized that. Yeah.
I wonder if there's any articles that talk about the renderware engine and if there's a section about collision detection. I wonder if that's a thing.
It's hard to say because I don't know. I'm obviously not an expert. I'm actually quite a dumbass when it comes to this stuff. But they said that they programmed their own animations, like how they work in the game. They didn't use the default animations for renderware. So I don't know how that would affect collision, especially because you can use things like the cruise bubble, which is, again, an animation glitch, to clip into stuff which affects your collision.
Well, sure, it does definitely affect the collision, but I think the actual fundamentals of collision detection is more of an engine-specific thing. Unless if they had special switches, like in modern ones, I don't know how different it is.
By a switch, you mean like toggling collision on and off?
No, more so
necessarily,
like
right?
how you can choose between, like in the Unreal Engine or Unity, you can choose if you want a particular model to have mesh collision or
Okay.
capsule collision or any other shape or whatever you want. I'm saying that it's possible that renderware may have had a similar thing where you could choose it, but it's also possible that fundamentally the renderware engine used specifically one type of collision detection. That's what I'm interested in looking
Yeah, I
up.
think that's like past the yeah, because I think that like talking about like animation collision, like how I don't mean animation collision, but how the animations affect how you collide with stuff. Because I think that with the cruise bubble, when you press the L button and you don't have collision for some frames, that's more of like that's not changing how the collision works. That's not affecting the collision. That's you're talking about like the engine based collision, but it's just saying okay, there's no collision for these numbers of frames.
I think it's the simplest explanation for it, honestly. And one reason behind it is they could have made it so SpongeBob's collision doesn't destroy the bubble. So they disable it for that animation, perhaps. And then if it just so happens that the center of SpongeBob is inside of an object, the default collision, once he regains collision, will try to push him inside that object.
Well, the cruise boost movement is pushing you inside the object. It doesn't work unless you're cruise boosting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's as simple as like your collision's down, and then you use the cruise boost translation to go through the wall.
It could just be he's moving so fast that there aren't as many steps to see if he's gonna hit an object if he moves any further. Kind of similar to the parallel universes from Mario 64.
Parallel universes in SpongeBob.
SpongeBob's quarter step might be too high.
Would
De
you say
facto
that's
speed.
would you say that's an instance of bad practice?
No, that's just a problem with the reason why that all happens is because of number overflow. That's really all that is.
Oh, for
You will
parallel
probably
universes?
Good old
you'll
N64.
You will probably never see parallel universes in modern games because if they use 32-bit integers, you're not gonna see that. You're not gonna see overflow unless that there's extreme numbers we're talking here.
Yeah, no way. Unreal uses floats for their positions, by the way.
They use floats, good old floats. They're huge.
Well, I want to see if the chat has any questions or topics that we didn't cover yet. Chat, what do you guys think? I'll put the chat on the screen.
I didn't know that Sonic Heroes was made with renderware. That's kind of interesting. So do you guys want to do cruise boosting as Sonic?
I mean,
Yeah.
Simply put, yes.
Yeah. Ooh, so apparently renderware offers on-site training and technical team facilitations for their game engine. Nice. Maybe we can ask them.
you guys see any questions in the chat you want to respond to? I'm just editing the layout. Somebody mentioned they had a renderware 3.7 manual. I don't know what version that was or when it was used.
If they were to add a separate mode dedicated to speedrunning, I think that would be
defeats the
extremely
purpose of
unlikely.
Yeah. First off, that kind of defeats the purpose of speedrunning. I think it would make sense if the game is exactly the same and they had a timer, like an in-game timer, which I can see them at. I mean, they literally have it like on the screen right now. I can see them adding an in-game timer, but like making a different version of the game to speedrun does not make any sense. And like the whole point is to beat the game as fast as possible. So it's like you're not beating the game as fast as possible with the speedrun mode. You're beating the game as fast as possible in the speedrun mode. So you're beating the speedrun mode as fast as possible. So it's not really beating Battle for Bikini Bottom as fast as possible. That's the problem. So you can't, again, like as I mentioned before, there's no reason to exclude certain mechanics from the base game for the sake of making casual play, I guess, a better experience, or making the exploits not as intrusive. Because if they're exploits that truly aren't intrusive in nature, they should be in the game anyway. No one's going to be able to do them or figure them out without having some sort of help or extended practice that would probably take longer than beating the actual game in the first place. So there's really no reason to have it as like a cheat code or like an unlockable or something like that. I really don't see I think that's actually more destructive than constructive. Because the first question you'd ask is like, I didn't know you could do this in the original game, and then you have to reply, actually you can't. This is just a special mode that was made for us losers who play the game all day. I mean, it would effectively be just like a mod. Like, at that point, there's no point in adding it to the game. Just make a mod that has it, which is not what we want.
So I'm looking through. Apparently, EA released the full documentation of renderware for you to read publicly. They have it on their GitHub, and I'm looking for the section in here that talks about collision detection because I saw it in their summary, and I'm trying to find the particular entry so I can read about this real quick.
Could you link that to me?
Yeah, here. I will drop that in.
Should CBs have the noise? Yeah, it's iconic. It's iconic. Of course it should.
Should it stack?
No.
No, the stacking is awful.
Just keep making it louder until you have the decibels of a jet engine.
It's what it is.
If they want to implement it, like the thing that you were saying about it being bad practice to translate forward, just for the sake of like moving the character forward, I feel like I agree, but if it's an Easter egg exploit that doesn't crash the game or cause any problems, I don't see the issue with it personally.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an argument to be made for it being included, but I'm just saying it wouldn't happen naturally in a million years.
Oh, obviously, yeah. Like the discussion is like, because they debated on adding it to the game, so we're discussing like when I go there, talking about the possibility of adding it. Like when you said that it's bad practice, I assumed that you were talking about like instability issues.
Oh, like for the game crashing or something?
Yeah, like just like breaking the game or just making it unplayable, like soft locking it or whatever.
No,
like,
not at all.
It's more just like how collision works. If you clip, like obviously, if you're using something that's intended to be, or at least a remake of an exploit or just some kind of an Easter egg, like you're running the risk of, like you don't really care about clipping through something and falling anyway. Like you're just kind of signing up for that,
Yeah. As a developer, it makes me cringe, but as someone who likes watching speedrunning, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I can tell like there's a lot of shit in the original. Like it's just, well, yeah, you already know.
I saw someone ask the question earlier about if it would be difficult to add spin jumping back in. It wouldn't be. It would be pretty similar to how he's launched forward when he collides with like a hitbox. So it'd use that similar launch function, but they wouldn't override the momentum that you would get from having that launch.
Oh, this is actually very useful. So this is an explanation for how the lead software dev of the original game programmed Collision. There you go.
I did the collision system.
Perfect.
This is actually great.
Is this from someone in chat?
Yeah, Tetrax sent this.
Oh, sweet. Jason himself did all the collision.
What a god, dude. That guy spent 60-hour work weeks making this game.
Yeah, so I'm noticing that he mentions triangles. I actually just got to the section in the renderware manual, and it talks about triangles being the most primitive shape that's used for collision detection. So this is extremely relevant.
Hey, I got a great idea. Let's get Jason Horner and the CEO of Purple Lamp Studios in the same call.
Oh my god. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Let's fucking do it.
The two legends.
If either of you are in chat right now, I want to hear a yah yeet.
The transition of power. That would
The
be.
torch is
I would,
being passed.
because we're still in contact with him. He's still in the modding server. We can definitely reach out to him and say, like, I mean, first off, he reached out to me. He entered this community reaching out to me personally. That would be a great show. Just getting those guys to discuss. He honestly, I think that he would like I think that it would be pretty cool for both of them. Like they probably both love it.
I would shit myself if I was in that kind of if I was in that conversation though. I would
Oh my god,
no idea how to facilitate that.
I'd just be like, holy shit, sitting there listening to that. That would be crazy. The CEO, I believe Andrew Hance would be, because like he grew up playing this game too, just like we did. So being able to talk to the guy that he's now remaking his game, that'd be really, even just not even having to listen to the content of the conversation would just be really cool.
Yeah.
They could be
It's like
talking about
catching up
anything
with
and
an
I'd
old
be
friend.
listening to that. The thing is, like, we can actually do that because I'm in direct contact with Andrew now, and we also have Jason on deck, so that would be awesome if we could get that going eventually. I'll bring it up with Andrew when he replies. What did you just send me?
Yeah, I know. I thought that was the link to the download, and it just sent the actual direct link on my hard drive. I was like, all right, that's fucked. No, so if
Your
you press
hard
the
drive
down-
is named Chowder.
yes, thank you.
Yeah, I was like, I thought you were trying to send
Come
some like
on.
video.
It's my favorite fucking cartoon when I was a kid, other than SpongeBob. Guys can't.
Chowder
hate
is
on-
basically just scuffed SpongeBob.
Well, Harold Greenblatt was the storyboard director on the SpongeBob's middle seasons. Like I think he was on there for like 3, 4, and 5, and he went to make his own show at Cartoon Network. Chowder's fucking legendary.
That makes a lot more sense. Delete his hard drive. Do you find anything in there that's interesting, Satch?
I might need to sit down and like really try to absorb this one day.
Yeah, this
and
is
then
like a
maybe
lot
get
of
into-
information.
This is kind of heavy.
Don't look through it in the GitHub viewer because it's truncated. Like actually download it because it's got all of the pages to it. And that's only volume 2 of 3. There's 3 volumes that are part of this
Oh,
collection.
jeez.
So hold on, I'll send you the link to all 3, and then you can go to each one and download each volume. So this is Renderware 3. So I believe Renderware 3 was around the time of BfBB, if not a little later.
Satch, have you gotten a chance to read the Pastebin, Jason's comments on the collision system?
Yeah, I have.
So it is pretty much what we speculated, where there's multiple circles. Well, in this case, they weren't capsules, they were circles. And it seems like the circle does move around too. So it changes based off of SpongeBob's shape. Or any character that you're playing as.
It is interesting that he used a solution that would try to mitigate clipping through things when you're going really fast.
The thing is, though, you can actually just clip through very thin walls and objects if you are going really fast, though. Like with Bubble Boost speed, you can clip through cutscene walls just by going fast. Because it skips over the frame where you touch it, I suppose. I don't know.
Right.
Mm.
So when
Sweet.
you
Can't
reboot
work.
clip, does it interact the same way where you're moving like really fast, or is that just its own separate entity?
It just lowers the collision for more frames for some reason. I don't understand why. What if it was like a debug testing thing? Who knows? Could they... I don't even know. Did you think that Tetrax and Seal ever found anything on reboot clipping in the code?
I think 4 did, but almost nothing. But I could be wrong.
Oh, talk about reboot clipping, like the jitteriness of the camera on reboot.
No, reboot clipping, you literally have more frames to clip. Like you can clip through any single wall in the game. You clip through for like almost a second. It's fucked. You can clip through any single wall in the entire game with that trick.
That's wild.
So you can fall through any floor, you can clip through any wall, you can levitate to the top of the map. You can boost your speed infinitely. Is there anything you can't do in this game? Probably not.
Wrong warp.
Wrong, yeah, can't wrong with that.
If we ever found a wrong warp in this 2003 original Xbox game,
Yeah, wait until we can do arbitrary code execution. So I'm gonna stand on Gary and do a couple jumps real quick, and that's gonna allow me to play Flappy Bird.
there is some kind of like weird like ace type thing where if you enter and exit the SpongeBob arena too many times in the GameCube version, it kind of scrambles the sounds. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh no!
All the sounds get completely fucked until you reboot.
Oh
It
man!
gets to the point where it crashes the game too.
It makes everything louder. Sounds are playing in the wrong spot. It's awful.
I can't wait to program all of movie in BfBB.
Like they already did.
Here's a legitimate question. Do you think movie DLC would be something for Rehydrated?
DLC. I think I hope they don't go the route of DLC.
I feel like that there really isn't much option. Like what could you include as DLC for a game like Battle for Bikini Bottom? Legitimately, like I'm not even asking as a joke. Like what kind of content could you add to the game that would qualify as DLC?
Given the fact that they're already like going out of their way to add cut content, it feels pretty like back-asswards to add DLC content.
That's a very good point. And also
Yeah.
their stance on patching things. They said if you find something in the game,
Good
they're not
for
going
you.
to patch
But
it.
we're not fucking fixing it. We're lazy.
Because they're speedrun fans. They're not going to patch it
Yeah.
unless it's like a crash or something that makes the game unplayable.
Yeah. Playable Squidward.
Playable Squidward. I hate that recommendation.
When can we play as Plankton? That's what I want to know.
I think that playing as Plankton would make even more sense than playing as Squidward because Plankton actually has motivation to get back into the chum bucket, whereas Squidward just wants no part of it. So if you're going to ask for a playable character, ask for Plankton first. He's the next one in line.
I would
Mr.
argue
Krabs.
Plankton is a bigger protagonist in the game than Squidward.
Squidward is just...
He's a
there.
side character. He's effectively a side character.
Squidward is literally a side character, and yeah.
He's like the equivalent of Bubble Buddy. He's just there.
He's almost there as like a Patrick kind of role in the game where he's just comic relief. And Patrick is a protagonist.
And like, what special moves would Squidward even have?
How is he going to platform with 4 legs?
His ledge.
It just
grabs
looks
with
so
his
bad.
feet.
Have you seen like those 3D versions of Squidward where he's like in 3D platformers? Like I guess like Hero Pants is one of them. It just looks so weird when he like jumps around. It just looks wrong. Wah, 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 wah.
I definitely
Renderware.
I think my favorite video that I've seen is the one that Tetrax posted where he's in Industrial Park as Patrick and he picks up Squidward and just fucking throws him in the goo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
All the
it.
goo fucking
He just
freezes.
straight up fucking dies.
Squidward fucking dies. Yeah, send me that video
This
if you
bitch
have
gets
it.
Han Solo'd in ice and Patrick just fucking yeets him in the goo.
Oh god. So let me read the bit about Jason's programming. So I suppose the question was, can you explain how the collision system works in BfBB? And his response was, and again, this is the lead software developer. That also, if you've seen the She Says video, the Out of Bounds Discoveries that I was in, I mentioned that I talked to him as well. But this is specifically addressed to the modding community. I think they got this answer like within the past year. I did the collision system. It includes an outer space which does move and penetrate. It lets the character move and go inside triangles a bit and tries to push them out a bit. And I feel like this is more technical information that we
Do
probably.
you want me to read it?
No, but like I'm reading this and I feel like this is something that like wouldn't be like too useful to somebody who doesn't develop
It's
games. It's got some jargon in here.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, maybe it's not the best to read it to the chat, but if you want to read it, I'll put it in chat now, and link it in the description of the video. Because the thing is, like, I'm reading this and I'm like, kind of stopping myself, like, yeah, this is probably not the best. Like, I don't know, it's just kind of like spitting words out of my mouth without any meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to like force people to like listen to anything that they're not like. Yeah,
it's a lot to take in considering.
Exactly, especially if you're reading it out loud. Like it's something you want to read yourself and go over it line by line.
The technicalities, especially when you go into software development, you really need to understand a lot of lower level concepts, and trying to explain that to the layman is a bit difficult. Because it's straight up just technical. Something like collision detection isn't just, it's not simple. It really isn't. There's a lot of math that goes into it, and there's a lot of and there's so many solutions that people have come up with for it. So trying to explain it sometimes it makes it difficult.
I gotta say though, the king jellyfish fight in this game looks fucking beautiful.
It is miles better than the original.
The game looks beautiful altogether.
I like how they have the bathtub is actually like hot from the steam in the shower.
So is that goo?
That is goo.
I love bathing in hot goo.
I also like they got rid of the showering. Like the shower stops when you get up there because it's so distracting in the original where the shower is just going off and you're trying to fight him.
Oh yeah.
I like that when you're looking through the curtain from the other side, you can kind of see like a sort of a semi-transparent version of it. Like you can see like the ripples in the fabric without like it actually
that's another thing
there.
too, is how the camera interacts with its surroundings instead of how in the original it gets locked onto you when you move. I think that's a good change personally. I like how
I think we have to consider that some of these changes are just going to be result of like the game getting modernized, because some of these changes are just like standard of games nowadays, like the camera changes and whatnot. Like the camera, even though it may not be better, it's like more dynamic because that's how more cameras and more games are nowadays.
I agree, which is why I said like it's okay if they leave it in, but they should have an option to disable the automatic movements and stuff like that. I feel like
I definitely agree.
The vertical movement.
I am actually. I am just so like hopeful for some decent menus and options in the remake. That would be great.
Menus we haven't looked before at the you start yet. The run. Like before you start the game, you should be able to set your settings before you start and have them as like a default setting.
That would just be amazing. Like actually imagine that.
We haven't seen what the menu, like the pause menu, looks like when you're selecting a spatula.
It's probably not programmed yet.
Yeah, I hope that they would make it similar, or at least the same. It works in the same fashion.
The pause menu in BfBB is really weird. It would definitely not like. I mean, if you mean like functionally, as in like how it's intended to work, yeah, I agree though.
Yeah,
I like the layout. The layout is great because
I agree.
Yeah,
I like
anywhere.
I was saying I was more. I thought you were talking about the technicality behind it, like how it appears like over the screen, and it like. It's like the Simpsons Hit and Run where like the actual like with the cutscenes in that game where they close over the screen, but it's like an object in the game is the black bars that go over the screen. It's like really inefficient and stupid. That's kind of how they do it in this game.
It is about the same. It's kind of funny when I was doing Dolphin in VR the other day. I was looking for that in BfBB, and when you pause the game, the menu just comes up on the screen, but the rest of the world is still loaded.
Exactly.
It doesn't like change scenes.
Moving.
Yeah. Yep. It's crazy.
That's exactly why lag clipping works too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I think one of the things that we talked about before is cruise boosting and how it would affect the game. One of the concerns that people brought up is like we don't want the same game. If cruise boosting's in the game, it's going to be the same game, but that's just totally completely far from the truth.
Yeah.
Like if you did a run where cruise boosting was the only allowed exploit, it would be entirely different, but you would still have the fun movement for half the run that you would have in the other game.
Mainly because the hands can't be disabled.
That's a big one, but it's also like the small things, like the way you can clip through objects, the levitation exploits,
SBA.
SBA, yeah. Trigger skips. You would be choosing different spatulas because like obviously Dutchman skip, prawn skip. Prawn's pretty fast. He'd probably still be an option, but Dutchman skip is just so slow that you would be forced to choose different spatulas. Just because cruise boosting exists doesn't mean you can clip through the rolling ballroom. Things like that. Like people neglect to acknowledge that there are so many skips in this game. Cruise boosting is just such a small footnote when it comes to like the percentage of tricks, but I shouldn't have said small footnote because it's the one that enables a lot of these things to work. But again, like just because cruise boosting exists doesn't mean that it's going to make lag clipping or L clipping or anything like that work the same way or even work at all. It's going to be a hard-coded thing if it actually is in the game, and those things probably aren't going to work just by nature of like they're developing the game with it in mind if they actually decide to. So I don't understand the concern with like making it the same game or the fallacy that we're asking for the same kind of speed run when we just want one glitch in the game. To me, I was talking about this earlier when we got off topic and talked about the other stuff that was super important as well. But I was saying before we changed the topic was that cruise boosting. Wow, I totally just blanked. What was I just talking about before that?
You're talking about the impact of cruise boosting in the game, what it would do and what it wouldn't do, reliant on the other glitches in the original game.
Yeah, I was about to get to the point that I was going to bring up earlier, but I forgot again.
I mean, I can bring up like the fact that...
Yeah, let's just talk. It'll come back to me, yeah.
I can talk about like how cruise boosting is one thing, but like truthfully, I personally think that disabling the hand is the biggest glitch in the game.
Right, but that's also intrusive to casual play, so again, it's a major glitch, but not being able to do that, which I agree it shouldn't be able to be done, would change the run so much. Even if you have cruise boosting in, it would still be a totally different thing. Also, I forgot. Okay, I before I forget, I remember what I was going to say. If you get rid of cruise boosting in BfBB, like the people who use it, it's like getting rid of rolling out and diving in like a Super Mario game, for example, like the three that are most similar, Sunshine, 64, and Odyssey, where you can do those things. It would play like Galaxy, where you just kind of jump around and like you like jump around and spin. It's kind of like this game's movement, honestly, right? Galaxy movement. You like
a little bit.
You do a jump and spin,
stiff.
Yeah. Like very stiff. Not to say this game's stiff without cruise boosting. That's not true at all. But cruise boosting adds that fluency and creativity that you don't have with just the normal movement. But yeah, I think that actually is a pretty good comparison. It's like comparing Galaxy movement to Mario 64 movement or Odyssey movement. It's like there's a big, big difference. And for people who play the game every day, like that's super important. So I don't think that it's like making the game exactly the same. Like obviously, if you like, that's like saying that the mechanics in 64 and Odyssey are the same because you can roll out and dive in those games.
Exactly.
They're not the same at all. You just have the same base game mechanics that are absolutely necessary to make it feel the way it does.
Like if you removed Cappy from Odyssey, you would still have really good movement as is.
Yeah, it's even though it's good, it's still not the same as 64. It still feels different. Like cruise boosting in this game would for sure feel different, and it would do different tricks, and you have different abilities with it. Maybe different glitches would be caused from it, but it's not going to feel or play the same as the original OG unintended cruise boosting. I'd like to see them try to polish it a little bit. Like if they polish it, so it like I wouldn't even mind if it's like a static speed. I wouldn't mind
if it doesn't make you want to blow your head off when you walk backwards. I mean, I don't know. That's you know how like if you hold in place for too long, the camera will just be like, yeah, you're going the other way.
If it's not like momentum based, I wouldn't mind honestly, as long as you can just have that same feeling of when you have a normal one.
Yeah.
Now, like, obviously, that's just
it doesn't
speaking
have
from, like,
to be the same coding. It doesn't have to be like the same means of how it works. It just has to feel the same.
yeah, like when you have like the staple like iconic cruise boosting where it's like it's like double your walking speed. Now,
Yeah.
we say this now with our perspective as runners in 2019, but in 2021 when we're using DCBs everywhere and we're like running at 4 times our walking speed, we're going to say the exact opposite, like, oh, you got to have variable speed to make it feel the same. But honestly, even if that kind of stuff does happen in the original game, first off, it is keeping the differences there, so there's a reason to play both. And second, it would still be fun with cruise boosting as is that we're currently using in runs at the moment. It's not like it would
it's
make
not
it
like
less
it's
fun,
not like,
you know?
Yeah. It's not like, yeah, exactly what you just said.
Yeah. I think that cruise boosting without being able to disable the hand and skip stuff like that would make the game more fun because you have more opportunities to use it. Yet you have to run through all jellyfish fields with it, say like
You're running through actual levels instead of just sand, and like going under everything.
That's the main problem with any percent, and the reason why people are gravitating to 100% now is because it forces you to go through more of the game. Whereas in any percent, you just run through a straight line in most of these levels. With cruise boosting, it doesn't meet its full potential at all. So I think that cruise boosting, if implemented in this game, can make it even more fun to move around in just based on the level design. Because when you think about it, this Battle for Bikini Bottom has been milked so dry now that a lot of the level design, from a speedrunning perspective, like for example, Rock Bottom, is super scuffed. Like downtown Rock Bottom, you just run a straight line through the entire thing, and you veer off once to get a piece of artwork and a spatula and some socks, I guess, and the other spatula. But it's pretty much more or less like the movie level design where you run straight through, and there are like little things on the side you get. So like in a speedrun version of Rock Bottom with cruise boosting, you'd actually have to run around and hit the buttons and stuff with cruise boosting and do some creative movement to get to those buttons to hit them. It'd feel more like a 100% run. If we can establish now that 100% is pretty much off the table for speedrunning in the remake, it's not going to happen, I don't think. I
think it would be very surprising to see it be even a little bit decent.
It took so much for us to get to this point for 100% to actually be playable, and
like,
even with
consider that we literally, like, without an overflow glitch, it's awful.
Yeah, if we didn't even have SBA, it would still be awful, even with all the good stuff that's in it. You could never ignore the fact that you're doing nothing for 11 and a half minutes straight.
Not to mention that in the new game, there's more content.
Yeah, that is true, but it's probably not going to be in the actual game. They said they were going to have it as like a side thing. I assume they're going to either put it in the main menu after you beat the game, like in an extras section, or maybe possibly inside the movie theater as like a replacement for the artwork, the concept art, or just have all of it. You can have like an actual cinema.
I would imagine.
You can make it like an actual cinema where there are different theaters, and the different theaters have the different like beta levels that they brought back to life.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, kind of like how like Mario Odyssey has like the darker side.
Exactly.
Of the moon part.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
go back
thinking.
to the moon, but there's just more stuff.
Yep.
I think the only thing they're gonna change actually about the game is adding Patrick's Dream as a playable level.
I don't think that's even gonna make it in as the main game. They said that the main game is gonna be a 1-for-1 copy of the original, which I really respect, honestly, because I think that this is the kind of thing where if you block out the possibility of anything changing, there's no possibility that anything can be like added that is not wanted or so. Like it doesn't, when you say none of it's okay, it doesn't even leave the possibility for completely changing the way the game works, if that makes sense. And it shows how dedicated they are to capturing the original feel of the game, which is all we care about, really. I mean, sure, if
we're not really looking for more content at the end of the day.
Yeah,
we already love what we have.
We're looking make the content more fun by, again, like even for speedrunning, like for what we're doing with it, you don't have to add more content. You just have to, I guess, like the incentive.
It's more of a bonus.
Yeah, the incentive to get more to do more of the content is if there are no ways to skip it. So, again, like for an example of like, what's a good example of a movement-based game that's mostly execution-based with not a lot of big skips? Honestly, I feel
probably
like
Celeste.
Celeste is a really good example, but it's also 2D, but it still serves the same purpose. Where it's still fun to play even though you're not skipping stuff. I feel like this game with cruise boosting can feel that way, where you're doing the same thing, but you're doing it faster with more creative options and more interesting platforming. I can see it being really, really fun because again, like cruise boosting is, you don't have to skip stuff to make it fun. This is the kind of thing you just kind of do in downtown Bikini Bottom or the hub world and just kind of fuck around and freestyle with it. It'd essentially be freestyling in a new game with new objectives. Effectively new because the objectives that we skip or just bypass or don't have to collect at all in the original. But I think that any percent's transgression into being dog shit really goes to show like how it's almost like a hard reset really, where we're getting all the content in the game back for an any percent run, assuming we have cruise boosting in it, and have to refine all the clips.
That's actually so crazy. That's a really good way of looking at it.
Another
like
thing
we've gone so deep with this version. It's like basically any percent is just it's nothing. It's like a skeleton of the game at this point.
Exactly. If you watch it, you're just running straight through these levels without doing anything. Like most of it is just drawing a straight line. It's so optimized, which is why 100% is now like perceived to be the main category at the moment. But that's another thing I was thinking was really cool too. Is like if you're running BfBB OG, you assume someone's running 100%. Obviously, in the future, when more people are like, once the boards kind of go past that transition and people are still learning the category, when it does reach its form as the main competitive category, it'll be that as the main thing when you're talking about for the original game, and any percent will still be alive for the new one. So you can do 100% in the OG and have it be fun, and play any percent in the new one and still have it be fun. So you have reason.
That would be optimal as fuck.
Distinctive reasons to play both, pretty much. It's not like, oh, this any percent's different than this any percent. It's like, no, if you want to do 100%, you play the OG, and if you want to do any percent, you play the new one. I think that just by nature of them asking me to go there to chat with them shows that they're interested in discussing the possibility of changing some stuff that we want to see in the game. They kind of
I mean, they wouldn't. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have you.
Yeah. Like
they want our input.
They do it as a gesture, kind of like an olive branch to the speedrunning community, I guess, to send the main representative there to play the game because I didn't have the opportunity to play it. It's a kind gesture, but it's also, I think they do want input from us, and they know that, like, I don't think they view me as the leader of the Battle for Bikini Bottom community per se. They more or less view me as the speedrunning leader because that's pretty much what I'm known for anyway. So I think that them reaching out to me is kind of like showing that they're interested in making it fun for speedrunners, because one of the things I wanted to explain to them as well is the importance of streaming and having a viable streaming option for this game. Like I said that the wrong way. Making this game a viable option for speedrunning and competitive play so it lasts longer. Like, dude, you know how, like, take a look at like Pokemon Let's Go, for example. That game doesn't really get a lot of attention nowadays because people just went back to the original games they wanted to play after that one died down, which is essentially what we'd be doing after if Rehydrated dies down. But if you take a look at games like Odyssey and Smash Ultimate, those communities are carried by their community's competitive scene, and that's what keeps them alive. So I'd love to use like those kinds of examples to explain how important it is that, like, it's like there are more fun things for the deeper community to look into, especially because like
that's what really matters at the end of the day is the long-term appeal of the game rather than the short-term hype that it has right now.
Because the current like currently how the internet more or less works is that you have influencers who endorse a product, and that, again, like as it sounds, influences people to buy it and play it and like it. So if you constantly have a stream of people who are playing the game, like several people who are just grinding it away and averaging hundreds of viewers, you now have places where people can see the game and see all this high praise for it, and, you know, like watch something with high stakes and they can get excited about and feel interested in playing it themselves. I mean, it goes to show, like, you know how many people got into this game because of cruise boosting? I mean, like, I was one of them, you know?
Yeah, no, so was I. I watched Cole, just like, he had dozens of YouTube videos, and a lot of them were just like optimizations with cruise boosting, and that alone piqued the curiosity. Like, what is he even doing?
The one
like,
small,
what is
the one small thing, exactly. It's that one small thing, and it sounds silly, like that one small tiny thing can be the selling point for a game for some people, but there is an audience of people who will buy the game for that reason, and they will play it for thousands of hours because of that one thing. Like, I can't see myself having invested this much time in this game if it weren't for
without
that
that
thing.
mechanic.
That mechanic.
No, because that mechanic has I think you can agree that it has one of, if not the highest skill cap to truly like get consistent, like to be
especially
able to
with the ever increasing skill gap that we're currently like working on with the DCBs, where you can legit get speeds that vary by like 10 points each time, just based on how precise you are.
Like and then not only that, but you have like RCBs. Like there are multiple layers of cruise boosts, and it's just like the deeper you go.
And this isn't even to say that it's the only thing in the game that makes it good. It's just like it opens the door and reformats the run into like pretty much
something completely new.
Yeah, because if there were no incentive to save slow things for later to skip them, you wouldn't have, like the shorter, faster paced spatulas without cruise boosting in the early game. It would all just be one and the same. That's why the pacing is so good, because it ramps up. And you also have, like, for example, because you can skip Drain the Lake and because you can skip Jellyfish Caves, you're not going to be walking through those levels. You're saving them for later, and you do the fast-paced, like less walking, more of like trick-based damage boost in the beginning of the run to skip those parts and set up for the cruise boosting later. It really affects the entire thing. And it allows for the setup-based stuff to patch out the stuff that you can't really like cruise boost through in the beginning. It really just like changes the whole run, and the pacing is a lot more consistent because of that.
There are only I'd say cruise boosting is truly the only thing that is like what the only exploit that really matters to me is that would like if I had to choose one thing, it would be that. I think most people would agree.
100% agree.
I agree.
Because saying, like most of the exploits in BfBB, like like I said, we already have them. We already have that game for stuff like SPA. We don't need SBA in a new game. But
I personally don't want SBA in the new game because it only makes 100% better. It makes any percent worse. And well, I guess that's debatable because SBA can give the opportunity to skip really slow spatulas that would otherwise be in any percent. It's more that like the original game is so broken that we're at the point where the spatulas are so fast and flashy and fun that removing any of them makes the game worse. It's more of that thing. So I can't say whether it would make any percent worse or better at the beginning, but if we do theoretically get to the point in new BfBB where all the any percent spatulas are fun, where we're not like, because think of it this way, in 2016, if we got SBA and we could get rid of shit like Ballroom,
the game would go on a downward spiral because we would be removing all of the slow spatulas at the time and not looking for new
ways and get exactly.
Yes.
But at the same time though, like if you don't think of it like a long-term effect thing, in the short term, we would have gravitated to it and said it was amazing, but without realizing the negative effects it would have on it long term. Right?
I think.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that because SBA, like if SBA existed earlier, that we wouldn't be looking in other places for faster strats.
See, I seriously disagree based on the games, like the way the game developed, because like look at what happened to 100% as soon as we started looking into it. We found minutes to save, and these are all things that weren't looked into because they weren't in any percent.
I mean, when we were still doing grinding in Museum, it was never looked into just do it on Bridge until someone just randomly did it one day. Yeah, it's like small things like that was what, 10 minutes almost?
That saved 5 minutes.
5 minutes. So that's 5 minutes right then and there that no one looked into just because it wasn't in any percent.
Yeah. But my original point was more that at the time, we would have happily taken SBA in any percent in 2016 because it would have cut out a lot of dumb shit. That was my point. So I think that, like, I don't know if long term it might be a bad thing for the new game, but the point is more or less that if we're assuming that SBA is going to degenerate in any percent run, then I would say that it shouldn't be in the new game, and I wouldn't want it to be in the new game because we have it in this game, and the main category is 100%. And it makes 100% great, so there's no point in wishing it in a game where 100% is going to suck anyway, and any percent has a chance to be good again.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we find a way to clip into the chum bucket doors in the first 5 minutes. Because that would just be fucking shit.
That'd be
then we'd have like Mario 64 leaderboards where it's just based on the number of spatulas you finish
Zero
with.
spatulas.
Yeah.
0 spatula runs. Speaking of the new game in general, I really hope that they let you skip cutscenes, and I mean every cutscene.
Yeah, I can't see them
like
not.
can
That's just
There's
like
no way they won't. There's no way they won't.
Like game developers realize. I feel like that's just like 101 when you become a game developer. You have to know that you have to skip cutscenes.
But I don't know. When they were playing in the the demo here, they were trying to. I think they wanted to skip the cutscene where the guy's getting squished by the hammer, and they're trying all the buttons and it wasn't doing. Nothing was skipping it.
The funny thing about that is somebody actually found a way to skip that cutscene. I think, like in the demo room. I think they found the skip for it. That's what I heard. But like if you go back and play it,
that it's just a placeholder right now where it's forced to be in because it's a demo for people to play.
Do you think
once
they're pre-rendered, or do you think they're in-game, like in-engine, or pre-rendered?
No, it's absolutely in engine. The reason why I say that is because the
you know what? I forgot that
the robot's twitching in that background.
Yeah, I realized because just now before you said that, I remember that when the guy did find the cutscene skipped, he found a way to kill the hammer before going into the cutscene. And when he did that, the hammer wasn't there when the cutscene was playing. So
that's awesome.
Not only is it in engine, but you can kill the actual hammer that's used in the cutscene. See,
that's gonna make some fun times.
In BfBB, in the original, they don't even do that. In the original game, they have like models that get pulled into the game and animate.
Yeah.
Like while you're watching them, and then they just leave.
That gives me some crazy Halo vibes because back in Halo, the very first Halo game, there were ways that you can kill Master Chief before the cutscene happens. And so the cutscene starts and Master Chief is just fucking dead and everything else is still happening. It's so, like my favorite one is Assault on the Control Room, when you go into that big room with the big Halo hologram and everything. If you line the Banshee up before you enter the cutscene, because it's based off of it's like a timer. After you push the button, a small amount of time passes and then the cutscene starts. Well, if you get a Banshee up in the sky before the cutscene starts and the cutscene begins, the Banshee just falls, fucking splatters you, and then Master Chief is dead the whole cutscene. It's so good.
That's amazing.
Hold on,
do you think the spatula cutscene's also in engine? So if you,
I would agree.
I think so too. So if you were cruise boost, if you had the cruise boost effect during that cutscene, it would still play out. I think you would still have cruise boosting in that cutscene if it again works through cutscenes, which is what we want.
Here, I'm gonna put in the Discord. This is, I think I know this is kind of off topic, but you guys need to see this.
I'll play it. I'll play it.
This is so fucking funny.
I'll put it on stream.
Skip to like 40 seconds in. So it seems like the way that they're doing is they're making an AI kill him, but they're starting the cutscene and that guy is still in the cutscene. So there he is. Wait, but the dialogue still happens and everything too. It's so good.
And he's just dead.
He's just a fucking corpse.
Oh, it's so good. If you could do something like that in the new BfBB,
you already
that'd
can.
be so. I know, that's what I'm saying. If there's some really funny fucked up shit you could do, I really want to see it.
Kill King Jellyfish before you even fight him, and he's just fucking dead. He's just not there.
Oh yeah, what if you use the cruise missile before you go up there to fight him?
Yeah, they probably thought of that though. He probably doesn't spawn until you go up there.
Yeah, he's probably not spawned just like in the OG. That'd be so funny though.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if any sort of cutscene manipulation could be a viable speedrunning strat.
Also, I gotta
I mean,
say,
we would have to look into it.
interrupting for a second to say yes, BfB does have joke strats. Have you ever seen Patrick talk to Patrick? You can't say this game doesn't have joke strats.
Oh yeah, that's the forbidden.
Oh, I love
strat.
that.
I was
That's the
just gonna bring
forbidden
that up.
strat.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few meme strats. Coochie clip is pretty funny, but that's
Coochie
not
clip
like it's it's not nowhere near the level of Patrick on Patrick action.
Yeah, that's funny.
The best part about Patrick on Patrick is where it's supposed to be SpongeBob, he's completely animated to be SpongeBob. Like his mouth moves with the dialogue and everything.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
Yeah, here we go. Let's find it. Here we go.
Oh yeah, at
Very
AGDQ.
special day. So here we go.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah,
Nice
it's just like
102 run,
weird
Shift.
shit like that.
Nice 102 any percent run.
I can't believe this game is 10 minutes faster.
SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom,
Wild.
guys.
Yeah, so like that would be a 52 nowadays. Which I don't even have in an OSBA.
What do you have in? You still have a 53, 55, right?
53.25.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's been that for 5 months. But I have new splits though from the new route that we do now with Drain the Lake. I have 40 seconds in Dutchman and 20 seconds in Sand Mountain too, so I can get a 52 if I just play pretty much. That was after
That's insane.
I got that run after like a day of playing, so it's gonna happen soon. But we're not even gonna need to have a no SBA category in this game because it's not gonna have SBA.
Oh,
Another-
it is the no SBA category though.
Oh, we're talking
There's
about.
no
I'm talking
SBA.
about the remake.
Yeah, there's gonna
Yeah.
be no SBA.
Just call it no SBA. Just don't even have. Just don't even have. No, just don't even have any percent and just call the any percent
Just
category
call it
no
an
SBA. So in case it actually is found, it's just you can't even
Yeah,
use it.
there we go. Then we could split.
But
then
we
there's
always
no
ran no SBA.
question.
Just completely rule it out. Do you think they would add an NG plus mode where you start with the bubble powers if we get them to add cruise boosting?
I think that's just a decision if they want to add the cheat codes back in.
I imagine they're gonna add the cheat codes. There's no way they don't.
But the
I mean, I
thing
would
is,
hope.
like, we don't need the cheat codes for them to be like, after you beat the game, they just add an NG plus mode where you start the exact same game.
Now that would be
with-
cool because then you don't have to fucking break your thumbs making inputs for 10 hours.
It's more just like it's just it's cleaner. It's like there are no cheats
Ooh.
involved.
It would be wild if they had like speedrunner modes like in the main menu like after you beat the game. So like cheat percent mode and they'll like start you off with like all the spatulas and shit.
That'd be so cool.
Or like it'd be cool if they had stuff like that, like special challenge modes. Actually, you know what, that would be an interesting concept if they had challenge mode. So one challenge mode would be NG plus where they give you all of the power-ups from the start of the game. Or something similar to like
They
a
can
boss
do like all
run
the
where
power ups and
there's,
all the levels
no
are
underwear.
unlocked except for
or,
the
like-
chum bucket.
I was thinking like a boss run, like you don't have like there's no underwear anywhere. You only have 3 and you have to fight all the main bosses in the game.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'm
I can talk
interested
to
in
them.
seeing how they're gonna do horde mode. That would be interesting.
I was saying like don't ask for Squidward to be a main playable character, but I could see him showing up in the horde mode if they decide to expand it to more than 2 players. In fact, in the original game, there's actually code for 4 players, but they never did anything with it. So it was planned at one point. They were gonna have multiplayer in the original game, but they never finished it, or they never started it rather.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, it's actually
Me
in
neither.
there.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the 2-player runs.
Do you think they're gonna be able to do story mode with 2 players? I don't think so.
No, they said that the multiplayer is just the horde mode. I don't
Yeah.
think they said anything about multiplayer co-op.
That'd be whack. Let's be honest.
It would be interesting. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't understand how it would work though. Given the way that the game runs, it wouldn't make.
It would be
sense.
really messy. I don't think it's a. I don't think it would be that great of an idea.
It works with Odyssey because you have 2 different characters as the same character.
Yeah. Now, if there's 2 player co-op, and we gotta get the Banshees prepared for this cutscenes. I had to watch that video again. That was so funny.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how the multiplayer goes through. But yeah, this guy who's talking right now is the guy who emailed me.
He's a G.
I love both of these guys. Their whole team's probably cool. They're all. I'm just curious to see like how they, like the whole debate over cruise boosting. I really want to hear.
Fucking.
I'm just imagining like
cruise. There is gonna be cruise boosting in this game.
I'm just imagining like 10 of them. They're sitting around a fucking table in the office, yelling at each other.
And then one fucking guy's like, "What about Ted Cruz?"
Cruise boosting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be that one developer who just has no fucking clue what's going on.
Just a bunch of grown men yelling at each other
about cruise
fucking
boosting.
cruise boosting.
It's like I heard something about a bad game.
Really fucking cool. That's always the first impression. Is like 99% of the time, it's like, damn, this is so cool, and the 1% is just like,
this is game.
Cheater! I can't believe you did this to my game.
This is, you're really kind of just ruining the whole game for everyone here when you do this.
Can you stop?
Can you stop?
I don't get that whole idea. It's just you just don't play with it. Like it's pretty easy to not play with it. It's like
you really piss me off.
Really go out of your way to learn how.
You
to
have
do
to go out of your way to be able to do cruise boosting.
Not only do you have to go out of your way to learn how to do it, you also have to, do it more than once, and you can't even do it until you have 41 spatulas anyway. So, it's not intrusive at all, really. Even if it were easy, you still would only be able to use it at the end. I get the whole thing about like intentionally making a game glitchy, but to me it's more like an Easter egg than it is a glitch. Like it was unintended, but it's still cool. It's a beautiful accident.
I don't really see like it gets to a certain point where it literally does not matter what was intended and what wasn't. All that matters is the end product.
Because the game as it is right now, like this is the game in 2019. The only living incarnation of this game in 2019 is this.
Yeah. It's effectively it's the same philosophy that can be applied to a game like Melee, where it's like the end product.
Exactly, it is what it is.
Like that's what the game is.
In 2019, nobody's playing Melee without its exploits, and it is what it is.
Yeah, right.
It's a good point. I like that. I wouldn't mind no major glitches being the main BfBR, but why though? Like there'll be categories like that for people who want to run them if it's competitive, but like typically a no major glitch category only exists when the game is so massive that using glitches cuts a lot of the fun out of the game. Like Battle for Bikini Bottom is a 3D platformer, not a story-driven game, so I find it highly unlikely that that'll be a thing, or let alone a main category, even a thing at all, because nobody would want to play it. Like that's the thing is if it's not competitive, there's no reason to have a leaderboard for it. But I guess we have to see how it plays out. I just think that with the original game as a baseline comparison, people are going to want to play this game with glitches.
I trust the developers very much. I think that they're going to deliver as much as they can, and I think that they're gonna find some sort of compromise with all of this.
I agree. I think cruise boosting is the perfect compromise. If they want to add something it's the perfect compromise. Because it doesn't intrude. It's fun for people who speedrun and don't speedrun. You can choose to learn it if you want to, and it takes more time than it takes to beat the game normally than it would to learn it in the first place. And even if you do invest the time, there's still a chance that, like, there are some people who don't have experience with learning technical stuff in games, and it's going to be hard for them to get it down anyway, so it's not accessible to everybody either. Which isn't really a problem because it's not really part of the base game. It doesn't have to be accessible to everybody.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be mentioned or it should just be a thing that exists.
Yeah, like an Easter egg, exactly. I think it's too iconic. It's too important to this game's history to not have it as an Easter egg. Because, again, this game wouldn't even be remade. I've already said this before. Might be a hot take, but I think this game wouldn't even be getting a remake if it weren't for cruise boosting. It's the butterfly effect.
I mean, I agree with that. It's hard to say for sure, but like
because they said that the speedrunning, like the GDQ appearance and that all that stuff, like showed them there was interest for it, and then they pitched it to THQ, and they agreed. They had to see the interest to be able to give them the green light for it, and that wouldn't have happened if we didn't start running the game, and we wouldn't have started running the game if it weren't for cruise boosting.
I think when you do talk to Andrew next, I think, like, if he is on the podcast, I think you should legitimately ask him what incentivized remaking this game.
Yeah. I think he already talked about that.
There has to be a reason.
He already said, I think he talked about that, but it was like half implied, half explicit. I'd love to know. But either way, it's definitely a part of his inspiration, because he did say it was a big part of it. Like, he did mention watching GDQ, and that he explicitly said that encouraged him to reach out to THQ and see it, because he said that there was visible interest in it. The success of that run really, I think, set forth the path for this game to be remade. I think, if anything, it was the GDQ run.
It just seems weird timing that it's happening now.
Because it was in development for a while. They said they were working on it for like a year or so. They were working on this game since they acquired the license.
I'm saying it's weird that it's happening now in 2019 if it weren't to be for the speedrun,
Yeah, okay, that's it. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, because it's not like it's an anniversary year.
Because that's everybody's question is like, why remake a 15-year-old game? It's like, what caused it to come back and become so relevant again?
Because it's fucking dope.
Like, imagine if there wasn't a speedrunning community for this game and it got remade. There would be oh shit, yeah, I remember that game, but like,
right now everybody's just insanely hyped because they all
talking about it like we do. Like there wouldn't be 5 guys just sitting down in a podcast talking about it for 3 hours straight.
Probably not. I don't know. You never know.
Yeah,
there's just so much to speculate and talk about. Oh yeah, that cutscene display. I really love the graphic change where when the robots notice you, they target you. Like when the robots target you, their expression changes from green to red. Like the lights inside of them change colors.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
it's little stuff like that I really enjoy.
I hope they make the fodders more spastic when they notice you, because the sound they make kind of implies that they're like freaking out a lot. So it'd be cool to see them like their heads like wave around and like go crazy and stuff.
They're like visibly surprised, or
yeah, like the head like does like a full 360. That'd be so cool to see.
I like that fish on the right of SpongeBob. He like has no idea where he is right now.
Because even in the original game, when the robots notice you, there's no like visible expression. They just kind of like bob their heads and run after you.
I mean, there isn't really much for sounds other than just the fodder. I guess G-Love, Chuck. That's really about it.
Oh, we haven't seen any Chucks in this.
No, yeah, there are no Chucks.
I wonder how their missiles. I wonder how their missile targeting works.
I hope in this game they home.
I hope in this game. I hope that their homing missiles aren't as fucking good as they are in the original.
I hope they're just as annoying. I hope they are just as fucking annoying as they were in the original, man. That is just, it's iconic. It's iconic how fucking stupid those things were.
They're like veteran difficulty Call of Duty Black Ops CPs.
That game is literally, that is such a stupid, oh my god.
I mean, straight up combat training from Call of Duty Black Ops. If you put them on veteran, you'll never win. They have aimbot. It's pretty much like the Chuck equivalent.
They probably made that game mode in 15 minutes. They probably had one guy go into the,
I really hope they just keep it like annoying as fuck. It's like it wouldn't be Chuck if it weren't the. It's not about like how easy it is or how doable it is. It's about the emotion that it evokes, the fucking anguish,
seething fucking anger.
Yeah, I just want to fucking foam at the mouth playing this game.
Yeah, that's the one robot and Sleepy Time.
I
I really hope they make Rock Bottom like as scary as it felt when we were kids, you know? Because when you're an adult, you see it differently, obviously. But when you're a kid, Rock Bottom is the scariest shit with those Sleepy Times rolling around.
I remember going into fucking museum and shitting myself.
Stuff like that is really
Chuck
important.
ruined CJ's life. I mean, Jelly's life.
King Jellyfish also ruined his life. So.
Honestly,
he died and never came back from Jelly.
As a kid, the Sleepy Times in Rock Bottom made me the most mad because I was too stupid and didn't really like realize that you can just tiptoe to beat them.
A lot of people just came back with the cruise bubble.
Yeah, I didn't know that you can get them with the cruise bubble either. So I was like trying to Rambo it, and they would just annihilate me. I used to get so mad. I straight up quit playing Rock Bottom.
I think you can actually get through Rock Bottom Ramboing all of them.
Really?
I think it's actually possible, yeah.
I remember as a kid
me
learning you can tiptoe into them by accident.
I thought tiptoeing
It's still
was
good
stupid.
game design that you can come back with the cruise bubble to do that later if you can't figure it out.
I hope they do the same thing with King Jellyfish.
You know, I'm just.
You gotta wonder if
looking
stuff
at
like that is
game
even
footage-
intentional.
Looking at the game footage right now, did you notice like how many robots were coming out of that thing? That was really fast.
All three?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. How does I don't
Honestly,
remember how
Shift,
it
can
works
you
in the
replay?
original.
Honestly, Shift, can you like back up that video by like 30 seconds?
On it.
I just want you guys to note how fast the robots are coming out of that duplication Tron. Yeah, so watch. So he'll walk up, and this thing will just start machine gunning out robots.
I know some of them.
I think
like
it just
in,
spawns. I think it just checks every several frames or whatever if something's spawning.
Definitely, but like
if
I don't
something's
remember
like
them spawning
if
that
there are
fast.
only 2 out, then it just spawns another one as soon as it dies or whatever. Maybe
like in Crab's
killing it
Dream
sets
in the
off
original.
spawn.
In Crab's Dream in the original, one duplicated Tron will just spit out all of the spawns at once.
I thought there were 4, one on each of the Krabby Patties.
There's 3 different types of
robots.
enemies regardless.
You're right.
It's just like in the at the end of like Sand Mountain Slides. The little battle arenas at the bottom, they all spit out all the enemies at once while like the cutscenes happen.
Fuck crap.
Yes,
See,
you see the
Bionicle,
same-
there have been some videos and people on Reddit who have said, yeah, I'd like for this game to be remade, but it wasn't a large movement until the speedrunning community made it bigger. And considering they explicitly said that it was how they judged the interest for this game when they pitched it to THQ, it's just, I don't think that's the case. 3D platformers are coming back in a big way, sure, but I don't think that this game being a 3D platformer is
The
like
reason.
Why
it's
it got
not
remade.
related to that. It's not like, oh, 3D platformers are popular again. Let's make
remake
this one.
Old ass licensed game. Yeah.
This is the only cartoon game to ever be remade, as far as I know.
There's so many 3D platformers from the PS2 era.
Considering that the CEO is also a fan of speedruns, like, I think this is the exact kind of thing that you would want to be on a project for. A game that you play when you were a kid, has a dope speedrun that you're interested in, and you see there's interest for it, there'd be a concrete reason to pitch it.
And I just want to...
What's up?
No, I was going to make a joke. I said, I just want a 3D environment classic Sonic game for crying out freaking loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3D platformers are definitely making a comeback, and I think that's a good thing. 3D platformers are very fun.
I mean, when did they start really coming back? Odyssey?
Honestly, I think Odyssey definitely had a big
It was a
part in it,
surge.
but it was kind of all of last year. You had I mean, I'm not saying this game was good, but Ukulele had a lot of interest. Hat in Time is a game that did really well.
Oh, right, Hat in Time, right.
Oh yeah.
See,
that's
Hat in
right.
Time is a weird one because its fame was so short-lived because Nintendo came around and squashed it like pretty much as soon as it came out.
That is true, but it's selling pretty well. I mean,
And for those of you who
Still
don't
selling.
like
It's-
know what
it's
I'm
coming out for
referencing, I'm talking
Switch.
about Odyssey coming out and basically just being the I guess like I say this like with an asterisk on it, like the superior
It was the poster
hat-based
child
game.
for platforming at the
To
time.
be fair, Hat in Time was created because they wanted a Super Mario 64 like platformer.
I think it's
Yeah.
more inspired from Sunshine, but same point, same difference, yeah.
but
they're both very
Hat in
similar.
Time is an example of a game that is in response to the interest in 3D platformers
Yeah,
coming back.
Absolutely.
Because that game is so. I mean, I think
Hat in Time was in development for like 5 years before it came out, though. So this would have been the seeds would have been planted like in 2014. Remember Red Moss ran that game? Its beta.
Yeah,
that was, like,
I
highly
think Alpha
anticipated.
even.
Yeah. I think people have wanted 3D platformers to come back for a while, but I don't see that as a reason in and of itself to remake a SpongeBob game from 15 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
There are so many
wonder-
other ones.
I wonder how the Destroy All Humans speedrunners are going right now. They're probably going nuts.
See,
All
Destroy
two
All
of them.
Humans is interesting because I knew nothing about the game before it was announced for remake.
Really?
That's
Uh-huh.
surprising, honestly.
That game was really popular.
I remember seeing one of my neighbors play it when I was a kid, and I was frightened to death because I thought aliens were gonna fucking kill me.
Yeah, they are.
I was like, I don't want to
They're
kill
here.
people.
They're here.
Dude,
They're
that
here.
Martian movie freaked me the fuck out, man. Like,
Destroy All Humans looks so muddy and gross when you go back and watch gameplay of it.
hopefully the remake really is.
Oh, it
really
looks good.
fixes all
Did you
that.
see the stuff they were doing with it? They had like the statues made for it and whatnot. They're really
Nah.
dressing it up. I can't wait to see when this game's farther along in development, the kind of stuff they do for it. I'd love to see
Yeah,
these
that'd
guys
be
go to
awesome.
the U.S. and just put on a fucking convention for it. That'd
Oh,
be so
hell
dope.
yeah. Hey, come to Baltimore. We'll play some fucking battle. I'll
East
fucking drive
Coast.
3 hours for that shit.
You know, I'd already be there.
Yeah,
I'm already there.
there.
Destroy All Humans is hilarious. All these games have a charm to them.
I'm just waiting on the Incredibles remake, and then I can die happily. You know, it really deserves it.
That's a pretty cool topic for another stream. Is like for CGI films like Toy Story from '96, like remastering those with new graphics.
Imagine like the animation of Toy Story 4 in Toy Story 1.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Toy
I
Story
never thought about that.
Toy Story 4 is just, I mean, the visuals in that movie are just
It's
amazing.
insane. Everybody's mentioned before, but the cat in the antique shop.
Yes, or how about when Woody's running through the rain and there's all this like mud kicking up and the puddles? It's just like, is this fucking Havoc's physics engine? What's going on right now?
I love the scene when they're behind the they're like kind of navigating behind the cabinets and stuff, like against the wall, and they're going between all the cobwebs and the power strips that are plugged in. It's like it's all so convincing. Like it's just, like they're going past the crack, you know, like when you stack furniture, like you put furniture like next to each other and they're like the little cracks where the light pokes in. They're just going past all those. Yeah, it's all good shit.
I don't know if you ever saw Coco, but that movie probably had also had stunning visuals.
I still gotta see that one. I've seen its visuals though. It looks very nice.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything Disney is continuously improving at, it's the visuals. Even though the movies are falling off, I'd say.
Yeah, the new SpongeBob is gonna be all CGI.
Hooray!
The movie.
Wait, Is it? I thought it was going to be mostly focused on traditional animation.
I'm pretty sure they said that the Wonderful Sponge movie is going to be all CG.
Did you see the cut storyboard stuff that they had and whatnot?
No.
They I forget how many months ago it was, but they had like a whole like 10-minute clip of cut content from the Wonderful Sponge movie, and it was like kind of a mix between animation and real life, kind of like the second movie, except they weren't CGI when they're like on the surface. Like it was like animation. I mean, I really hope it's not all CGI because
I really don't like SpongeBob and CGI.
I want to see like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit style thing where it's, you know, where the main characters are animated traditionally, you know, as they look in the show, and their surroundings and whatever they're interacting with in the movie, if they happen to be on land or whatever, that, you know, they're real life or CGI or whatever.
Yeah, it's like how they did it in the original movie where they're in 3D space, but they're 2D
exactly.
characters.
I want to see something like that, but, you know, full movie. That would be great.
I'd fuck with that for sure.
The thing about these movies coming out, like, and also, I think that licensed game movies kind of died within the last half decade, especially with fucking Hero Pants. But if this game is a success, if BfBB Rehydrated is a success, I would love to see like the same engine, if they iron it out and make it feel good, used on, maybe they said that they'd be open to making new SpongeBob games. Maybe the Wonderful Sponge game can be a thing as well.
Wait, imagine
movie
like,
2.
No, like imagine TSSM, but like okay, like but with all the filler cut out and then replaced with actual levels. For like
how do you fill in the blanks though for a game like that? It's based on a 90-minute movie.
I mean,
it's just so hard.
Either possibly. I don't know. I don't actually know. Maybe you could expand on the already existing levels.
You can add like a subplot with Sandy and Bikini Bottom, maybe, if you're gonna use the same engine. I don't know. But Sandy is not even. Sandy has like 2 lines in the actual movie. She says, "I paid 10 and yeehaw." That's it.
Yeah. So I looked up the Wikipedia page for the new SpongeBob movie, and it does say it's going to be entirely through computer graphics.
Hooray!
But you know, hold on a second. Actually, look at I noticed that they have this poster for the movie, and the styling of the text looks just like the BfBB Rehydrated text.
I think that's the reason why they went with it for Rehydrated. They're trying to keep it modern.
They're trying to keep it consistent with the current.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think it looks cool, but I really hope that it's not, you know, that they have traditional animation at some point.
I really hope that in this game they have SpongeBob look the way he normally looked in the original 3 seasons, because that just really tie it all together for me, honestly.
Wait, what the fuck is Snoop Dogg doing in this movie?
I feel like you could say that about every single movie nowadays. Like, why is this person here?
What is Snoop Dogg doing in a SpongeBob?
Why is Will Smith in Rewind?
Why is that's hot. Snoop Dogg. Yeah, I can't wait for fucking SpongeBob and Snoop Dogg to fucking smoke weed.
Why are there actors in movies?
That's just like why, like the question I asked in the second SpongeBob movie, why Nice Peter and fucking that other guy from Epic Rap Battles of History did a fucking entire sequence at the end of the film. How did that happen?
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
You guys remember that one?
Wait a second. Hold on.
Jesus Christ.
God, I love Will Smith. He's just such a down-to-earth guy. I love seeing him.
Oh, God.
Another thing I wanted to mention is I love how I mentioned this when we watched it the first time, though, but I don't think Ringo was here when I said that back when they first revealed it, that you can do the skip where you hit the button and the Duplicatron at the same time.
Wait.
Yeah,
You actually can do that.
Yeah, you can jump right behind it and still
Hold
hit
on. Wait, I'm gonna
That's
ask
what I
you.
like to
What?
see.
I'm so fucking fixated on this shit. Can you play that back one more time? There's one more thing that I noticed that I feel like needs to be pointed out when he's first walking in. Does he hit one of the cans and it kills it before it even spawns?
Good point. Let's watch.
Hold on, wait, no, it happened right before. It happened.
I'm just gonna
like,
slow
as
it
he was
down.
walking up. Seriously, I think he actually, like, if you can hit the cans and not let them spawn, like, by doing that, that would be fucking awesome.
I think the can is a really cool redesign. I like it a lot.
Maybe it just walked out. Maybe he just walked out of camera.
Dude, hitting
focus. I mean, there's only 2 robots there, and there were definitely 3 guys that came out.
But wouldn't you get more
I saw the
shiny?
third one.
Wait, let's
It's hiding, but you can see it.
see.
Pretty
So-
sure it was.
Is that the one you were
the
talking
first
about?
one, yeah, he
that's
doesn't
the one,
kill
yeah.
that. He does not kill that.
Okay, yeah,
That's
he's
out of
too
range.
far away.
No, that would be a
Wait,
small little.
wait, so
he,
wait,
kill,
but
he
three
kills 2 of them
spawn-
in one shot. He killed 2 of them with one.
Gotcha. Okay, now it makes sense. All right. I'm
Also, the shiny objects are like actually, they're not like 2D.
They're 3D
They're
objects.
they're
They look
3D
like-
objects now because they don't have to save the space of This game was made very
Wow.
efficiently when it was first like the original was, because there are so many things like the flags in Goo Lagoon that are just like 2D like shapes.
They're just like Game & Watch graphics.
Yeah.
Like if you get it on the right angle,
but
they're
it's
just not-
you hardly notice because it's designed so well.
yeah.
You gotta
the
wonder,
idea-
like you said earlier, you gotta wonder if this shit was intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't know sometimes. Like, are these people just really like? This game still kind of fucks with my brain when I think about like all the shit that's actually in it.
Yeah.
Like how it actually exists. I don't really know.
It still fucks me how it's 60 FPS. Like, it's so optimized and efficient. It's a consistent 60.
Yeah. You know, a lot of the people who had very, very limited resources to work with in game development and other, software development, problems.
Dude,
They're making the best
Pokemon
games.
Gold and Silver, when Iwata reprogrammed the entire game to fit an entirely new region into it, Kanto and Johto in the same game.
Yeah, people, never don't sleep on developers, man. They're extremely intelligent people when it comes to solving these problems. It's wild. The level of thought and the amount of iteration that they go through to produce these things. And especially to make them this efficient, to make an Xbox game, an original Xbox game from 2003 or 2002 run at 60 FPS.
2003. You're right.
It is okay. Yeah, it's 3. To run at 60 FPS on a fairly, reasonable engine, albeit it was good, but it was
Not
still a
even though,
primitive
like
engine
also
for
60
its time.
FPS on PS2 and GameCube as well. All of them were consistent 60.
And on GameCube, exactly. And
Yep.
meanwhile, Nintendo's popping out games only at 30 FPS.
A year
there had to
later,
be a lot
yeah.
of thought. There
I
had
think
to be
it's
a
more
lot of
because they're
thought
not prioritizing the frame rate. That's got to be more of like because Odyssey's 60, and that game's a 3D platformer, so I feel like it's
Sunshine
a different,
just. I think I don't know if 60 FPS was as essential.
Oh, you're
to
comparing
your
to
game.
Sunshine. Oh, I thought you were talking about modern day Nintendo.
No.
Okay.
No. I think he was talking about how Sunshine.
I think the
came
reason
out-
why Sunshine's 30 is because the water physics are so advanced for the time.
That
Water
makes-
graphics.
What?
I mean,
it's
that
worth
game
it.
still has damn good looking water for today's standards as well.
Yeah.
It's just the atmosphere that it builds around the water.
But even though
honestly.
Sunshine still runs at 30, it still flexes
It's still
a
a
lot.
good game.
Like it's still a good game. It still looks good, but it flexes a fuck ton with like the what's it called, the memory capacity of the GameCube, where like the
Right.
manta level in what is it, Serena 1, where you have to kill the mantas. Like
Yeah,
there's a
there's
lot
like-
going
and
on
there's
there.
like
It's,
80
it
million
lags a
of
fuck
them.
ton, but it still can pull it off though.
Yeah.
What's the max amount of mantas there can be? Isn't it like 60 or something?
I'm not sure.
Whack. Yeah, when the fuck is Mario Hotel 2 coming out?
VHS.
Yeah, the things that the software developers did to make these games, don't sleep on them. You really got to appreciate them, especially the older games. I mean, if you look back at even older games, go well back into the 8 and 16-bit era, they had to be even more, resourceful with what they did. I mean, if you look at the difference between Super Mario Bros. 1 and Super Mario Bros. 3, they are both for the same console, yet both games are so radically different, and Super Mario Bros. 3 is so advanced in what it was capable of doing. If you look into the way that those developers, made that game work, it's incredible. It's incredible the amount of intuitiveness that they had. It's wild.
I think when you're given limited resources, it forces you to be as creative as possible.
Right, and that's that kind of draws back to my earlier conversation point about using a more well-known engine, and I think you guys are definitely right that renderware was more well-known at that time, but with how versatile something like Unreal and Unity are nowadays, everything is just like a switch. Like the Unreal Engine boasts itself on how easy it is to not have much experience developing games and making your first game. You get all
much what renderware was at the time as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's nice that like the accessibility. Not to say it because these guys are all veterans, obviously, but making it even more accessible to start making something like this. It's not like a gigantic commitment of resources to make a game like this allows things like this to even happen.
Hey, and a year of development and you have something as beautiful as that is after only a year? I mean, that's pretty damn good if you ask me.
See, they already have much more time to work on this than the original as well. So that's a good sign.
Right.
They're taking their time. They're saying 2020. I feel like 2020.
Well, yeah, there's no way.
I don't know, because people were looking at this and saying like it's not ready, but at the same time, like they know best and they're working on it and they know
they probably
how
have
much
other
else they have
levels
because
that
we've
they're
only
just
seen
not
Jellyfish
showing.
Fields. We have no idea what other levels they have in development right now.
And worst comes to worst, they just push it back.
I would love for them to push it back and just keep working on it, but
I'd rather have a late release than a half-assed game.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be half-assed. If anything,
Yeah,
it's just
that's like kind of harsh language.
Well, more rushed.
Yeah.
just time restricted, similar to the first game.
Yeah.
Yeah, we joke about the original developers being on crack when they made the original, but I mean, the truth is they did the best they could.
We talked.
The truth is they actually had 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I think that Kelp Forest was made in about 5 minutes.
I'm telling you, we need to figure out, what that guy ate to make the tree texture.
I really want one of the developers to take a shit and take a picture of it and use that as the. If you guys don't know what we're referencing, the original game has the tree texture for the original game is an actual human shit with like sea urchins like drawn over it. The little urchins are just like laying on an actual human shit.
Dude,
and
straight up, they probably forgot to make the tree texture until like a week before the game fucking came out, and they were just like, we need to get something, man. It's like, I don't care if it comes out your ass, dude, just make it. He's like,
It's just an orange human shit.
Oh man.
Dude, what if I poop?
It's like they were talking to the fucking lead designer, whatever the guy's name was, the lead graphic designer. It's like, what are you gonna do? Pull a tree texture out of your ass? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder
hey,
if
we're not
the
joking.
tree
This
texture
is-
being
no, we're damn
shit is the
fucking
reason
serious.
the robots TP'd stuff.
Oh man.
It absolutely has to be. There's no reason for there to be toilet paper other than that.
Oh man. I wonder, is there any more
Yeah.
texture shit that we don't know about?
it's like vandalism.
Yikes.
I mean, SpongeBob has joked about like the Dirty Bubble and Man Ray doing like stupid teenage pranks as their evil doing. So I think it's fitting that like the same kind of humor where you're like TPing like, trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
It lines up, but like just having the
It lines
context
up
of
too
knowing
well.
that there's poop right next to it, like poopy toilet paper and Jellyfish feels like. I really hope.
I really
they add
wish
the
I never
TP.
learned that.
Okay, here's
I
another
really
thing
just-
too. Is I hope that they don't try to make the game look too beautiful, because it's still Battle for Bikini Bottom. Like, it's still supposed to be a war zone. I hope they emphasize that kind of stuff too, instead of just adding like dead robots and the patches of grass. Like, I hope they add some like more of the missiles laying around, and again keeping the TP on top of the trees.
Yeah, honestly, I just want to see a bunch of fucking blood, man.
Do you think that the toilet paper is actually like modernizing the game by getting rid of it? Do the kids even TP nowadays? I don't think they even do that anymore.
Oh shit, yeah, no, that's right.
Do people even know what that is now?
Yeah, right.
Probably not.
Back in
I
the
don't
day
see a
on
reason why
Halloween,
they
you
would
just
do
buy a
that.
bunch of toilet
Throwing the
paper
rotten
rolls.
eggs at people's cars and shit. Nah, no one does that anymore. They just fucking bully each other at school.
Is TPing a thing of the past? Are we boomers for knowing what that is?
Oh no. Back in my day.
TP'd someone's house last week.
Damn. Just
Cute.
heard about
I'm
about
so-
TP. Damn, that shit sucks.
Yeah,
God,
no,
you
I'm-
make me
I'm-
moist.
I'm kind of awesome. I skipped math class to do it.
Oh man.
You know, me and the boys.
Oh yeah. Yeah, who knows what Mischief Night is anymore?
Oh my god.
Oh
Mischief
my
Night.
god.
Yeah,
That's what I
Mischief
was
Night,
talking
New
about when
Jersey
you buy
was
the
fucking
toilet
whack
paper rolls
shit.
on Mischief Night.
Oh no, everyone would around for us, at least in our area, people did more fucking egging than toilet paper.
I
shit.
remember the
Like,
day
they
of
would-
Mischief Night, they all stores banned the sale of fucking eggs and toilet paper to minors.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, somebody I knew from school fucking had a whole carton of eggs that they kept out for a whole week before Mischief Night and fucking threw them on people's cars. It's fucked up shit, man.
They could add something like that where they just like egg the back of Squidward's house.
Oh, that'd be great.
I'd love to see a big like bite taken out of the pineapple.
Hey, at least no one like puts like dog shit in like a paper bag and like lights it on fire on the person's doorstep anymore. That's not a thing.
Yeah, that's fucked up. I think
That's
people are
mad
afraid
fucked.
of like catastrophic shit coming from that.
Yeah, you might find a
It's-
tree texture out of it.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern of mine, is they're trying to make the game look too beautiful and forgetting that it's a battle for Bikini Bottom.
They're forgetting that once the trees were actual shit.
Like
Yeah,
it's a beautiful landscape with deadly robots in it. Like it's I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
like, all right, it's more like the
They're kind of seen as more of
fucking
like pests
skirmish-
and threats.
the
You know,
skirmish of Bikini Bottom.
they're like seen as in this game they feel more like pests than actual like threats that have destroyed the landscape.
Like,
Yeah.
keep in mind, these robots fucking spread nuclear warheads across the fucking entire game.
Oh my, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
I like how there's like no end frames for the helm. Like the second he's done bashing,
No,
and
he's
touching
going
the
right
ground,
back down.
He's just good to go.
I wonder
I
if
think
you
that's
can
what,
do a slam. Can you do a
Satch-
slam out of a bash?
I think Satch was talking about that earlier, how like it has to bungee them back to the ground, otherwise the momentum would just send them straight up. Do you think that's the same thing, or is it like totally scripted, Satch?
I think it's just scripted, similar to how the trampolines are scripted.
It
It
looks,
just
yeah,
kinda
it looks
pushes
like
it up
that. I
and
agree.
along.
I would agree. Looking at it, I wonder. I don't think you can slam out of a bash because you still have the helmet all the way while you're going down.
I actually did see him slam out of a bash. It just looked really, really jank.
Yeah.
Oh, he just does it there.
Wait, what?
Oh, okay.
Slam out of a bash.
I'll
Didn't he
rewind
just
it.
do that?
No, you just double jumped and
Oh, really?
Oh.
or slammed.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
he just double
Well,
jumped.
I don't remember where it was, but I saw it earlier. He slammed out of a bash, and the animation transition was just it was something.
Horrendous.
It was something. Another thing too that I really hope they fix is that the shiny objects don't have their own individual models. Like the purple ones are supposed to be really big, and the red ones are like little tiny little shits. You know.
Oh, I didn't realize they had different sizes. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, purple
Really?
is the biggest.
Yeah, size doesn't matter, bro.
They also have different. They also have different numbers of petals. Like the purple ones only have 4 petals.
I mean, I don't look into it that hard, but
I think it's a
no,
nice touch.
that's interesting. I really didn't even know that. Those small details.
Yeah. Yeah. In my chat, the badges are all based on the purple one, but they do have different models.
The BitBet, yeah.
Yeah, the bit badge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna miss my paper mache fucking shinies.
Wait, what are you talking about?
The paper.
Oh,
because they're
yeah,
just
okay,
Fucking
yeah.
paper.
They're actual just fucking paper, yeah.
Now they actually like look like they're worth something.
What do you think of the 2D GUI?
I
honestly
think
think it
it's
looks
just because
lame.
it's alpha. I think it's just because it's an alpha.
I like the white background, the current white background.
I like the coming soon sign.
I was saying earlier, the statues and costumes they had for Destroy All Humans, like they legit had people dressed up in costume as the aliens on a stage
That's pretty
performing.
awesome.
I hope if they do anything like that with this game, I'm gonna need to fucking cop that shit. Just like a
IRL.
promotional statue in my house.
Just the fucking entirety of Jellyfish Rock.
That'd be so cool, dude.
Living Jellyfish Rock.
That'd be awesome. I'm gonna dress up as Robo Patrick.
I want the tower that you sponge glide off of, like that little post. I just want that, and like a replica of that thing. That'd be great.
The lifeguard post.
Yeah, the lifeguard post, exactly.
With the little
Iconic.
beacon on it.
I want the wheel that gave me childhood trauma.
Oh hell yeah!
In Sandy's dream, just the floating wheel. In my late teenage years, that thing ruined my fucking life.
Honestly, I just
Slam
want
into it.
I just want
get
the Revenge of
glide.
the Flying. I want a life-size scale Revenge of the Flying Dutchman O tile.
Dude, wouldn't it be sick though if they remade the Dutchman with like a more
With this engine?
like with the engine they're making now, if it ends up being great, like I'm sure it will, because again it's pretty obvious they're reaching out for help. If they master this engine and they remake Dutchman with like a different storyline with the same premise, that'd be really cool.
I'd shit myself, honestly.
Like RTFD 2, they make a sequel to it, even though Dutchman
that'd
was
be
not very popular. These guys like passion projects. They'd have to like pitch it and get the funding for it. But I'm sure like if they could prove that this game is profitable, they could prove like just by being the same studio making another SpongeBob game. I'm sure they can get some kind of approval to make a game like that. That'd be really cool to see. I think that this and Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, I guess like maybe, I honestly think the only one that doesn't have a chance of getting brought back is Movie, because it's based on a movie that came out 15 years ago.
Yeah. It lost.
That's actually a good point.
It's not its own idea. Like they could remake Creature from the Krusty Krab. They could remake the Dutchman. Lights, Camera, Pants with online multiplayer would smack. I'm just saying right now, I'd be playing that every day.
Can I have Scribblenauts SpongeBob Edition again? Or Drawn to Life SpongeBob Edition?
Yeah, that game. I played that game.
I actually really loved that game.
I guess in that logic,
you know what? Hell, man. Fucking Super Sponge for PlayStation 1. I fucking loved that game.
Remake that game in like the Cat in the Hat with the 3D side scrolling.
Cat in the Hat for the PS2 is probably the most cursed game I've ever played in my life.
Is that actually Mike Myers voicing in the game?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
I saw you playing it.
And and then did you immediately leave?
No, I didn't. I just had this moment of like extreme
regret
flashbacks from like when I played it as a kid, because me and my brother, we got that game at a BJ's for $1.
I got it for $2 on eBay.
Oh fuck!
The value is going up. It's twice as much.
You know what? Shift. You know what? I know what fucking shit games you need to play. Shift. You have to play those fucking Burger King games that they gave out. The fucking Sneak King and the fucking Pocket Bike Racer. Those games are fucking. They gave them for free with a Whopper meal in 2007.
Wait, what do you play them on?
You played on Xbox Original.
In 2007?
Yeah, the disc. I have them. The fucking disc has the 360 logo on it, but it boots up on the Xbox OG. wait, hold on. I gotta
get a picture of that.
Oh yeah. Whoever had the Pizza Hut game for the PS2, yeah, I have that.
Holy shit.
I have one. I have two of them. Yeah, hold on. Let me send this picture. So these are two of them. So there's a game called Sneak King and there's a game called Big Bumpin'. Big Bumpin's like a fucking race game. It's a racing game. And
Racing in a Whopper.
It's all
Sounds familiar.
No, straight up. You can be. You remember the fucking Whopper Junior kid? Like, remember when he was like an actual person in like the Burger King lore?
Dude,
Oh yeah, of course, dude. Always eating at Burger King.
I'm not checked up on the Burger King lore.
He straight up fucking wears he straight up fucking wears his Burger like Whopper Junior outfit, but he rides a bicycle. And so
Man.
like it's just like it's so hold on. All right,
I just want the Burger King to fucking drive the paddy wagon.
And yeah, it's literally SpongeBob movie fucking.
You already know there are
sandwich
going to be paddy wagon mods in this game.
Hamburger. Oh wow, there it is.
Oh, it's Xbox. It's Xbox, but it's like.
But it says on the 360
top, logo.
Yeah.
On the top
That
it
is-
says,
that is
on
some
the top it says
bootleg shit.
includes Xbox
That's-
360 and OG Xbox versions.
Oh, it's
the
both.
disc. The disc just looks like a 360 disc, but it plays on the original Xbox. It's so scuffed.
Whoever made the Sneak King game, the Blitz Studio, they are also responsible for other classics.
Creature
such
from the
as
Krusty
Pac-Man
Krab.
World
Here,
3.
I'm sending the chat the fucking
Pac-Man
picture.
World 3.
Blitz
I
Games made
think-
Creature from
I
the
think
Krusty
in-
Krab. What do you think
I
of that?
think in Sneak
Wow,
King-
so they have a lot of
Yeah.
hits.
Yeah, you know, like these. I think Big Bumpin' is.
Big bumping.
Dude,
I
my
played
man.
that.
God tier shit post game. Like if there's a game you got to play that's absolute shit, like these two are
The
it.
chicken on the big bumpin' disc looks like some.
It looks like a fucking tumor.
It looks like something out of a Goosebumps episode. It's just awful. Look at the green eyes. Why does it have green eyes?
Dog, I don't know.
It does sound like a Limp Bizkit song.
I don't know. They made 3 games. The third one is Pocket Bike Racer. Like that's the actual racing game. Big Bumpin' is fucking bumper cars.
It's actually a Limp
It's
Bizkit
straight up
song.
fucking
It's a
bumper
new
cars.
single.
Yeah, I don't know where my Pocket Bike Racer.
Fred Durst,
is.
playable
I'll have
character.
to find it, but yeah, it's fucking. This thing is all scuffed, man.
Yeah, I'm still rocking a red hat.
But the promotion. Yeah,
I want my jean shorts.
Jorts.
I was drinking.
Yo, you think they're gonna put this game on the Vita?
Speaking of
want
speaking
the
of shit
PSP
post
phone.
games, by the way, guys, I do want to bring to everyone's attention that I'm going to be working on the starting stages of doing a Lights Camera Pants community repainted.
Oh.
I've talked about this a lot before, but I'm going to start like actually putting the effort into getting that prepared and getting a group of guys who are.
Wait, are
willing
you
to
good with
moderate
work
it.
now? Like you're just like.
I mean, kind of. This is like an easy thing, I would believe.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, I would like to try and see if I can pick up stuff again. But for right now, I'm just doing easy stuff. Like this repaint, it shouldn't be too bad. But I've been talking about wanting to do it for a while, and I think a lot of people have been asking about a new community repainted because when we did Rod FD, that was probably like the funniest fucking thing I've ever done. It was great.
Back
But
then,
I think
yeah,
it was
we
it was
let a
whole
lot of
different
rancid
time.
shit into those back then because we again like the
Yeah,
stream was a lot smaller. We get away with a lot more shit.
Yeah, it's obviously gonna change tune what we're gonna approve for this.
People
but-
are literally going to submit pictures of dirty diapers.
Oh yeah, I'm aware. I'm sure that'll probably happen. But it's not my decision. It's a community repainted. So when the time comes, I'm gonna say like in about a week, I'll probably.
Do you
have
think I'm
everything
allowed to
set up.
show that on stream? I don't think I want that on stream.
No.
Can we put my profile picture in the repainted somewhere?
Oh, I'm
Somewhere.
gonna. Oh, trust me, I'm gonna dig up some old ones.
What do you mean? Because that coming from you, that can actually mean anything.
Oh
You
yeah.
could get, for all I know, you could
has
like,
literally
bring up a picture
everything.
of me. You could bring up a picture of me from like 2009 on my like birthday party, and I'd be like, wow.
Yeah, I think I like we had some pretty strict like moderation as far as like the last like when we did Rod FD. Like if you were gonna post something that was pretty weird. It couldn't be like people like real life people. It had to be like cartoony. So like I'd
There's
imagine
gonna need to be
like,
some moderation.
if people are posting like if people are putting in textures like I want to make the shark's fucking face like a poopy diaper or something. If it's a real picture of one, like I'm not gonna fucking approve that. It's gonna get shot out. If
Why?
it's like a cartoon, what do you mean?
I'm serious.
I really don't want to see any fucking diaper shit, like literal diaper shit.
We can talk about like what the guidelines are for submitting, but ultimately we're the ones who decide what goes in and what doesn't. So like if you want any special restrictions, we can just make sure that happens. But I don't know if it's going to be as easy as Rada was. I don't think it would be because it's definitely not as complex as BfBB Repainted would be. So it'll be pretty fun. I think you guys would like it. I know I'm gonna have a blast doing it.
I think Rod FD was really good because the game is so simple and everything is just so like flat faced that you can really see the
I'm
sorry, I'm taken back by like what Kolb is. What are you putting in here?
Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck. There we go.
It's me in my shower.
That's classic time.
That's the shower with your shirt on.
Yeah, this is how to shower with your clothes on.
That's fantastic.
One of my best works.
I was the 501st view.
That video has 500 views.
I accidentally view-botted it like 2 years ago.
Accidentally.
It was like 100 views, and I put it on loop and fell asleep and woke up and it was at like 500. It's a 7-minute video.
It is a 7-minute video. If you ever want to go
the watch
back,
time is out of this world. The average watch time.
Yeah, everyone watches to completion. It's just that good.
I can't wait to meet these guys. A lot of the stuff that we talked about. All right, we got to stop posting inside jokes in the server.
Oh wait, well, okay, my bad.
Classic.
Yeah, because they can't see that.
I didn't know they could.
Or like they can't see it. No, they can't. But it's like
okay.
we're like laughing about something they can't see. So it's like.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I like the discussion we had about potentially like trying to recreate cruise boosting and testing it. Satch, I don't want to like. I guess like when do you think you'd be able to make something like that? Because we can like talk about it on the next podcast if you can do it.
I'll have to do a lot of planning first, but I'd like to get started either probably this weekend or early next week.
All right, cool. So I think maybe like if we want to do another podcast next week, we could probably like skip the week for the cruise boosting stuff and then like 2 weeks from now talk about it on the 3rd episode maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. There might not be that much to talk about in terms of game development though. So like if you want to like sit that one out and then the next one we could have you on again, that might work as well. I guess it really depends on what's going on with Rehydrated, because for all I know, like they could just reach out to me and be like, "Hey, this is some updated footage," and then just like talk about it. So you never know. So
yeah, for sure. Just keep
like,
me posted.
Play it by ear, yeah. But yeah, we went on for almost 4 hours, and we were saying we might not even last for 2 or 3. This was a lot of fun. I just figured there's not.
Yeah, it really
is
was.
there anything else we need to talk about? Like, does the chat have any questions about things we need to cover? I think the one thing I should mention though is make sure you give your feedback to Purple Lamp Studios if you have any strong feelings or ideas about what you can offer. Like if you came to any realizations while watching this video with our commentary of what you'd like to see change, what things that you noticed while you were watching the gameplay, what you might want to change for that while you're watching it, stuff like that. Be sure to tell Purple Lamp your thoughts, because I made a video on this earlier, which you probably already saw, that I got invited to the studio to test their game, I guess, and talk to them about stuff. So that's going to be happening soon. And they told me that they were really appreciative that I told people in my community to reach out. So again, like they want me to keep telling you guys, keep giving them feedback. So keep giving them feedback, I guess. I'm going to leave a link in the description of this video on the YouTube VOD for giving them feedback and just tell them what you think. And looks like there are no other questions in the chat. So with that, I guess this will be the end of the first episode of the podcast, and I'll get back to doing some speed runs, I guess.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the Bobcast, boys.
Thank you, everybody. And also, we got some more news quickly. Would you guys be down to hop in a call for that Minecraft server release? Because that's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to need a lot of manpower to get out of spawn.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be there.
When is it supposed to be?
Well, yeah, it depends on what time.
Yeah,
exactly.
The thing is, like, we're not sure yet because we were trying to get it out tomorrow, but there's a little bit of a speed bump in pre-generating the chunks so we don't have any crashes and also like anti-cheat stuff. We're kind of deciding, like, because here's the thing. We want it to be released the right way. We want it to be, like, exactly how we envisioned it and not have any issues, but at the same time, if we wait 2 weeks to pre-generate everything, the hype's going to be died down by then, so... We're going to figure out what's going on with that, but I'll keep you posted. I feel like it
shouldn't take too long.
Yeah, I don't know, Cole. Do you think like tomorrow would be unrealistic?
I haven't spoken to Parrot since the pre-generation has started. I wouldn't imagine it would take much more.
I talked to Yo Man. He said that it was at like 2% after like I don't even know. I talked to him at like I think 6 p.m. So what would that time frame be like? 2% for how long? I don't know when you started it.
Well, it depends on if the server is up or not. It realistically, the pre-generation will like be like halfway finished, and then we can just kind of send it because there's no need to pre-generate everything.
Yeah, I feel like the number of people who will be loading those chunks outside that range, because I think that Yo Man's idea was having the spawn range be like 10,000 blocks or something like that, and then have
10,000 by 10,000 with 16 gigs of RAM. Even if people are loading chunks,
10,000 by 10,000 spawn, but then outside of that, you can expand it to 60k, like 60k out and in, and then the spawn is 10k out.
Yeah.
I don't think
realistically, there won't be much lag at all with what the server has. So
if we pre-generate like 20k and have the spawn like 10k out, and then have the full range 60k, I think that'd work. So pre-generating 20,000 chunks, I feel like that'd be able to be done by tomorrow.
I think that's plenty.
Yeah, we should. Are you guys down to hop on tomorrow and play?
Oh yeah, I'm clear tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's cool with me.
All right, so that's probably gonna be an all-day ordeal because we're really trying to hype this up and have a good time with it, because it's been like it's been over a year since we started the development of the survival game server, which is still being worked on. It's the biggest project of all of them, but this whole like integrating the different types of servers in with the survival server to support it, I think is going to bring a lot more exposure to not only just like the stream but also the game, like because it's Battle for Bikini Bottom themed survival games. So people who like find the server, I guess through not the stream, they can get invited to the Battle for Bikini Bottom server and get that exposure to the game and get reminded that it exists. That's another thing too. I like that we're tying it back to this game. It's cool.
Yeah, it's dope. Yeah, so when I'm done work tomorrow, I'll make sure I hop on real soon so that I'm on. So that's like 5:30.
Yeah, basically there are mods too for like power-ups and spatulas and stuff like that. It's fucking awesome.
Is there cruise boosting?
I don't know. I think is there Cole?
That'll be something that'll be added way later.
That's epic though.
It's gonna be added though.
Sweet. All right, cool.
All right, I had a great time, and I hope I can come back for another podcast in the future. Had a good time with this one. I'll see you guys later tomorrow.
Peace.
Yeah, it was fun.
Have a good one, guys. And to the viewers, have a good one as well. We're gonna keep streaming, but for YouTube guys, I'll see you next time.
See ya.
Peace.
See ya.